Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. Entitled Mom's diabetic son needs my cinnamon roll. Hi, I'm on mobile and English is my first language, but I still suck, so if there's any bad grammar or spelling, that's why. Please go easy on me, as this is my first post. To start the scene, this was about a year ago. My friend and I went to the mall to get some new clothes and stopped at the food court to get a snack. Our cast. We've got me, we've got my friend, we've got Entitled Mom, Entitled Kid, and the worker. To the story. So, my friend and I had been at the mall for about an hour when we started getting hungry and decided to stop at the food court. We went to a pastry restaurant that is mainly known for selling cinnamon rolls. I ended up getting the last cinnamon roll, while my friend got some pretzel thing. I don't remember what it was called. We sat down with our food, and 5 minutes later, a lady and her son walked up to the worker. She wasn't paying much attention to the worker and decided her phone was more important. Worker. Hello, ma'am. May I help you today? Entitled Mom. I want a cinnamon roll for my son. Oh, I'm sorry. We just ran out. That lady sitting down got the last one. We're currently making some though, so they should be ready in about 15 minutes. Entitled Mom finally looked up from her phone. I can't wait that long. My son is a type 1 diabetic. He could die. Worker. I'm sorry, ma'am. I can offer you a drink or something else we have made currently. I'm fine. Entitled Mom and her son walk over towards my table. My friend and I continue talking and laughing at memes or something on our phones when Entitled Mom clears her throat. Me. Hi? Entitled Mom. Give me that cinnamon roll. At this point, I had already eaten half of it, and it was mine because I paid for it. So I told her no and continued talking to my friend. I said give me that cinnamon roll. It's for my son. He's a type 1 diabetic and he'll die if he doesn't have that. I look up at my friend to see her smirking. See, what this mom doesn't know is I am a type 1 diabetic. I have been for 16 years out of my total 19 years of living. I don't know a time without it, and I feel like I'm well informed on my own disease at this point. Obviously, I don't know everything, but you get the point. Me. If he's a type 1 diabetic, and it's so urgent, then why can't you go somewhere else to get him something? He's just so picky, and I really don't want him to die because of you being selfish. Just give him the cinnamon roll. I look this kid up and down. Now, I know you can't tell if someone has diabetes by just looking at them, but I don't notice any sight of injection scars on his arms or legs. That doesn't necessarily mean he isn't, because he could just do his incisions where people won't see them. I did that for a while because I was embarrassed, so I can understand. But something about them just didn't feel right. My gut was telling me that he wasn't diabetic. Me. Well, what's his blood glucose level at? Maybe I can help. Entitled Mom with a panicked look on her face. It's at 13. Me. Oh, wow. You should take him to an emergency room. I'm so surprised he's still walking around. And my, he's not pale at all. How are you still conscious? Entitled Kid. I'm just a strong diabetic. Now, I can hear my friend next to me trying to contain her laughter. She's been my friend long enough to know that if you ever go that low, you typically aren't acting fine and dandy. You're either unconscious or having a seizure. So we both know this mom is lying, and she knows we've caught her in the act. Entitled Mom. I don't know what you mean. He's obviously very... Me cutting her off and showing her my insulin pump. Ma'am, the next time you want to try to scam someone to give your kid food, make sure they don't have the disease you claim they have. Now, please leave us alone so I can finish my food without going low. Goodbye. Entitled Mom goes red. She grabs her kid and they storm out of the mall. I haven't seen either of them since, and I'm glad I haven't. My friend and I got to finish our food in peace, and we still currently joke about them when we go to the mall. I'm with her right now, and she told me I should post this story here, and it might get a few laughs. So here you go. I hope you enjoyed this story. Have a great day. Edit. Thank you so much for the support and stories. I never expected it to blow up this much. Thank you for the award. I'll try to keep up with comments, but for the repetitive ones, I'll try to answer it here. Why did the worker point you out? To be honest, I'm not sure at all. I didn't think that was a thing until it happened. I know you're obviously supposed to inform customers, but I didn't think to that extent. Maybe he knew she was going to be a problem and didn't want to deal with her, so he threw me under the bus. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him working at that place since then though. What's the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes? People with type 1 diabetes don't produce insulin. Type 1 is typically more genetic as well. People with type 2 diabetes don't respond to insulin as well as they should, and later in the disease often don't make enough insulin. Typically, type 2 is bad dieting, or even sometimes being overweight. Not always the case though. Hopefully this helps with any confusion. Edit 2. I didn't realize there were different ways to read a blood sugar, so for those confused, I'm in America, where we use milligrams per deciliter, whereas I think most people commenting are using the other format. So a 13 milligram blood sugar in America would convert to around a 0.72 blood sugar elsewhere. Next we've got attacked at a grocery store for wearing a manager costume. I was shopping at a store that rhymes with strafe this weekend on the way home from a really awesome date night with my fiance. So I was dressed pretty nicely, black jacket, black skirt, and heels. Fiance and I usually go our separate ways in the store to achieve the best efficiency of finishing our list as fast as possible. So I was alone when this interaction started. An older Karen, probably around 60, was putting around the soup aisle and hemming and hawing at the sale. 10 for $10. And I guess she saw me with my cart putting something back on the shelf. She cleared her throat a few times and stomped around, but obviously I was just minding my own business. Karen. Hey, lady. Me, deciding between Strafe brand mac and cheese or Kraft. Hey, you, manager. Excuse me? Hey! Me, finally acknowledging her. Oh, me? I'm not a manager. Did you need some help or something? Well, obviously you're a manager. Why else would you be dressed like that? Which of these soups count for the 10 for $10? Me. I'm not a manager. I don't work here. And I don't know. Probably the ones that are directly labeled in the sign that says 10 for 10. What the heck is your problem? You're the one yelling at me. Karen stomped over, wagging her finger at me like I was a child, yelling at me about customer service, how I should do my job and help her choose her soups, and all that's wrong with the youth today. Something also along the lines of getting me fired for incompetence. I don't know. I zoned out. Me. Ma'am, if you need help, please go up to one of the cashiers that work here and ask them. I'm here buying food like you. Karen. Stop lying. Do you think I'm stupid? You're a manager here. You're wasting the costume. You think you can just... Okay, listen. Then Karen smacks my hand, making me drop the box of mac and cheese I was holding. Don't interrupt me. What the heck, lady? You just hit me. Yeah, I did. You interrupted me. Seriously, what the heck? At this point, my fiance heard me yelling and zoomed over. He was also dressed nicely. Button up, black slacks, the works. Fiance: what's happening? Babe, are you alright? Me: she just slapped my hand because she's too thick to hear me when I say I don't work here. Fiance: what? Karen: you need to fire this jerk. She won't do her job. Fiance: do you really think everyone dressed remotely nice is a manager? Crickets. Karen: well, I know she is. She was putting back that jar earlier. Me: because I didn't want to buy it, you idiot. You can't talk to me that way. Me: babe, grab an actual manager because I want to call the cops on this crazy lady. I'm a paying customer. So are we. This is getting long, so the rest of it went like this. She stepped back in shock that we both yelled at her, and fiance waved over some poor unsuspecting person. The actual manager got there, and the lady started her BS again about how both me and my fiance should get fired, how we suck, etc., blah. She proudly admitted to hitting me, by the way, which was hilarious. The manager looked at us and back at her and told her to apologize for hitting me and that she should leave. She again mentioned my manager costume and how it's my fault. The manager, in his actual manager outfit, pointed at his badge and name tag, his specific all-black outfit, and tried to explain to her that we were definitely not managers just because we looked nice, and she's assaulting another customer. Karen: but she deserved it for talking back to me. The manager had this I want to run you over with a car look on his face, and he slowly spoke to her like she was 3, again explaining that we didn't work there. I piped up, asking the manager politely to inform the woman that if she didn't apologize, I would like him to call the police and file for assault. The manager repeated this to the lady slowly, and the lady screeched and threw a can on the ground, swiped her arm through a bunch of soups, causing them to avalanche to the ground, and briskly waddled out of the store. We helped the manager pick up the soups, even though he kept saying sorry and that we didn't have to help him, and he asked if I really wanted to press charges. I said no, but there's no point. I just thought it would make her go away. But if he wanted to make a police report, I would be happy to provide my statement. We laughed about my manager costume and got a $30 gift card to use for our groceries. Don't wear fancy clothes at the grocery store, for you may encounter the single-digit IQ creature that is Karen. Next we've got entitled employee at phone store rips me off, gets what is coming to him. Hello, Mr. Reddit. Thought you would like to hear this one. I have been a long-time fan and love your voices. Now you know the drill. I normally use Google Doc to catch any spelling mistakes, but won't this time because I'm still mad about this. I work part-time. Sadly, there isn't much work where I live. So part-time is all you can get when you live in a crapshoot like me. I love my job and my coworkers. Sadly, being part-time, most of my checks go to bills. I'm lucky to live with my significant other and grandma, so being part-time isn't that bad. This all started about a month ago. I added my significant other to my phone line because it was cheaper than paying 2 phone bills each month. The people I go through had a good deal on 2 lines and Amazon Prime. I already had Prime, and my significant other didn't care if he had it as well. It was just a bunce. I set up the new line and everything is fine. I know my new bill and I'm able to walk out super happy. Me and significant other on one bill for less than $100. I'm in. It's not until my next billing cycle I noticed something was off. I was a bit lower than normal, and I keep a very close eye on my expenses. I looked over my bank statements, and there it was, my new Prime bill. I was super confused and got a hold of Amazon's customer support. They helped me as much as they could, but because I was receiving my service through the phone company, I would have to go through them and figure out the problem. The next day I had off, I walked in and talked to a very sweet girl who tried to understand what my problem was. We kind of talked in a circle for a bit as I tried to explain what the Amazon customer service told me. We looked me up in their system, and there I was. 2 lines, but no Prime membership for either one of us. She could see the date I opened my first line and then the second. Both dates added up to what I had told her before. She stared at the computer screen for a while with a confused look on her face. Then the consultation happened. Nice lady. So, you opened an account on this date. I see you did our Amazon Prime promotion. Me. Yep, and I thought I did the same for the second line as well. Yes, I remember you coming on, asking, so I don't understand why your Prime is now being charged to your card and not being taken out of your phone bill. We stood in silence, and she typed away, still trying to find the problem. She asked me who helped me set up the second line, and I tell her. She tells me she will be right back and leaves for the back room. In there for another 5 minutes before someone comes back. It's not nice lady, it's the manager. Manager. I understand bad employee helped you open up the second line, is this correct? Me. Yes, I'm so sorry, but I'm tired of the confusion and would like to get this taken care of. I don't want to cause a big scene. I would just like this problem to be solved. Manager could tell I was becoming very frustrated, and I'm sure she was as well. I wasn't trying to make her life hard. There was a problem, and it needed to be fixed. Unfortunately, without bad employee, we couldn't do anything. We need to log in under his thing to see how exactly he added the second line. So I left and came back a different day. And guess what? Bad employee was not there. I kept coming back and forth from my place back to the phone company, trying to get bad employees' login info. Sadly, manager couldn't get into his account without getting the okay from higher up. So basically, I was at a standstill. Corporate would want to cover their butt just in case bad employee tried to say getting into his things was an invasion of their privacy, so cutting through all the red tape would be hard. All of this over a darn Prime membership. At this point, I was done. I was tired of wasting gas just to come down and be told that bad employee didn't show up for their shift. The last time I went in was when everything went down. Instead of seeing nice lady or manager, I saw someone I knew. It was bad employee. I didn't know this at the time because the one and only time I saw him was when he set up my second line 3 weeks before. I wasn't greeted by bad employee. Instead, he shot daggers into me as I walked up. When I asked about nice lady or manager was when the fun started. Bad employee.
No, I'm the only one here. You'll have to deal with me.
He spoke like he was talking to a child who had just gotten done throwing a tantrum. Very condescending. Me. Okay, well, I wanted to tell them I'm not going to try and fix the problem. It was costing me more in gas than the bill itself. Bad employee.
What bill are you talking about?
Me. The Amazon Prime bill. Someone didn't give me the portion discount like I was promised. Bad employee pulled my account.
See, you missed the date by 3 days. That's why Prime was charged to your card.
He had such a smug look on his face, like he had just won. I took a deep breath and looked at him. I had him repeat what he had said to me. The second time, he sounded super annoyed and felt like he was doing me a favor by repeating himself. My cool level head was gone, but I tried to stay as calm as I could. Me. The promotion ended on this date. I opened the account on this date. That was within the time, so please explain how I missed it by 3 days. Bad employee.
Well, you see, it takes a while for phones to activate, so when your second line finally came online, it was past the promotion date.
Me. That's not how phones work.
Yes, it is. Don't tell me how to do my job. What do you know?
Me. Apparently more than you. I didn't buy a new phone. I took an already working, turned-on phone and added it to my plan.
Then you changed your plan, and that means you don't get Prime.
Me. I went from one plan that had Prime to another plan that had Prime for 2 lines. I was speaking through clenched teeth, trying to remain calm. Bad employee.
Whatever, I know what I'm doing. You're clearly just a dumb jerk who knows nothing about phones. You want me to explain it again, sweetheart? Slower, maybe?
Me. You better get manager on the phone before I reach over and teach you how to respect women. I'm not your sweetheart. And no, I don't want you mansplaining crap you clearly know nothing about. Now, even though I'm talking in a calm voice, you shouldn't be scared, because Livid doesn't begin to explain how mad I am right now. I'm 90% sure I made bad employee be himself, because despite the fact I wasn't leaning in super close or talking super loudly, he was cowering away from me, and he was shaking the whole time he was trying to get a hold of manager. When she picked up, I explained what had happened. Manager, being the amazing woman she is, started to apologize for bad employee's behavior. I told her she didn't need to, and that I won't be back in unless I have another problem. I would just eat the bill and call it good, because the stress and anger was not worth a darn thing. Manager understood, and we hung up. I said my goodbye to bad employee and left. A few days later, I get a voicemail from manager, who tells me that bad employee put in the dates wrong, so he would make a bigger sale and I would miss out. Because of this and many other complaints, bad employee was let go and won't be working for the company ever again. She again said sorry and wished me a good day. So in the end, bad employee got what he deserved. Entitled Mom tries to take my game console for her son. My dad wanted a one-of-a-kind retro console that didn't exist anymore. I found one on Craigslist and I made the trade in a cafe. Then a mom and her son came over to check it out. This story takes place a few years ago in a mall quite far from my hometown. A little backstory. My dad loves everything retro. He is always blasting old music, quoting old movies, but most of all, he loves old retro video games. He talked a lot about this off-brand gaming console his dad got him as a kid, and at the time, he didn't understand it was cheap and off-brand, but he loved it so much. Since he was young, and the console was not Nintendo, Sega, or a well-known company like that, he didn't remember the name of it, and couldn't find it at any store, even with the description he gave. I, like my father, love video games. I mostly play new, next-gen games, but I still appreciate the old stuff. I wanted to buy either an Xbox or PS4. Either one I bought was gonna be so expensive, and I wanted to get one cheap. I decided to use Craigslist, and I searched up video game console just to see which console I could get a better price for. While scrolling through, I noticed some retro stuff, and I got to thinking maybe someone was selling the console my dad said he had as a kid. When I typed in the description, there it was. Someone had posted one that fit his description exactly. The guy was selling it for about $75. I messaged the guy and he seemed pretty nice. We planned to meet at this mall near his town that was about a 45-minute drive away. He told me he wasn't sure all the cords and stuff were there, and at the mall I could buy a wire if I needed one. I got to the mall and we set up the console in a cafe next to a GameStop. We set it up, it works great, and we make the deal. I'm not sure if this is the exact one my dad asked for, even though it was exactly what he described, but I knew he would be happy nonetheless. Before I started packing it up, I wanted to play a little. This is where the entitled mom of the story and her 8 or so year old son came up to me. The kid notices the game I was playing and said it looked really fun. Entitled mom noticed me playing and walked over. Entitled mom: "Hey, what game are you playing? It looks fun." Me: "Oh, I'm not sure. I just bought this console." Entitled mom: "How much was it?" "Well, I paid $75. "Awesome! Did you get it at this GameStop?" She motions toward the store right next to us. I was getting weird vibes, even though nothing weird had happened in our conversation. No, they probably don't sell it there. I got it from someone else. She got an angry look on her face. Who did you buy it from? I got it off Craigslist. Not where? From who? Why do you need to know? She did not like that. Listen, I want to buy my son a console for his birthday, but the new ones are all just too expensive. We have been to 3 different stores, and everything costs $300 or more, which is just crazy for a single parent to afford. I wouldn't expect a kid like you to understand. Now, tell me who the person you bought it from was, and give me their number. I want to see if they are selling another one. At this point, I just want out of this whole conversation. I wouldn't want the person who sold me this console to give my number out to random people, so I'm not going to give Entitled Mom his number. I start packing up the console and keep the conversation going until all my stuff is packed so I can leave the cafe and get out of there. Me. I don't think he has any more to sell. I used Craigslist to find one, so if you just open your phone and... What are you doing with the console? I'm just putting it away. Listen, let me just buy it from you. I need to get my son a gift, and I don't have much time. She takes a step closer, and I start to scoot backwards because I don't want anything to happen to the gift, and I hate when people are too close to me. It gives me anxiety. So when she grabs my arm, and I immediately pull away out of fear, letting go of the game. She grabs the game and moves it to the other end of the cafe table so I can't reach it. Listen, I will pay you for it. My son's birthday was a few days ago, and so I need this gift right now. I'm running out of time, so just listen to me. She pulls out her wallet, and I realize if I don't start being aggressive, she might take off with my dad's present. I stand up and reach to the other end of the table. Me. Maybe you should have planned on getting a gift before your son's birthday, instead of trying to steal one from a stranger. She then snags the system from my hands and hands it to her son behind her so I can't get a hold of it. I'm not stealing it. I will pay you what I got for it. She forces 2 20s and a dollar bill into my hand and then goes over to my bag to get the controllers and wires I had already put away. At this point, I'm furious. She is trying to pay me less than what I just paid for a console that they don't make anymore. And judging by the fact the Craigslist post was up for 6 months with no competition, it was safe to assume this was the only way I could get this console for my dad's birthday. I go to the kid and take it back from him. I did it a little aggressively because everything was happening so fast and I panicked. The second I took the console back, the kid started crying, and now the entire cafe was watching. The mom spun her head around, saw her kid and her new audience of people. Why are you stealing my son's game? She dropped the controllers and she ran over to her crying kid. Later, I found out that one controller cracked when it fell. Me. It's mine, not yours. I paid you for it, so now it's mine. Either you give me my money back, or you can't have it. I pointed to the money she tried to give me that I placed on the table. Take it. I never agreed to give it to you, so now I'm going to take my stuff and leave. No, it's now my son's console. I could tell she was about to do something like call thief when another customer chimed in, saying something like, Lady, it's not yours. Entitled Mom looked at all the faces staring at her. I assume she came to her senses because she picked up her son and just left. I grabbed everything, put it in my bag, and scurried away as fast as I could. To finish my end of the story, I went back home and wrapped the gift. At his birthday, I gave it to my dad, and he was so happy he cried. I got the right one. He was so ecstatic I found the right one and the only time I had ever seen him happier was in videos of his wedding day and my birth. I didn't get my own gift, but seeing my dad's face when he saw that I had gotten him a gift and I had listened and cared about him was worth more than any game or console I could buy. I think it's important that I say something about this whole experience. When I talked to this mom, I didn't see a nasty, evil, one-dimensional demon who was just the scum of the earth. This mom was in a frantic panic, and when she said I stole her son's console, I think she truly believed she was trying to do the right thing for her son. Not that this is any reason for behavior like this, but in the moment, I wasn't able to see that this was a person who was a single mother just trying to find a game she could afford and would make her son happy. In life, it's important to remember that everyone has their own story, and it's important to remember in the end we are all human, even though some people don't act like it sometimes. I hope I don't run into her or anyone like that again, but I do wish the mom found a gift for her son and they were able to celebrate his birthday happily, just like I got to with my dad. Next we've got Principal proves she is a Karen and gets in trouble with school board. This happened years ago, so I will paraphrase any dialogue. I will use NP for new principal. When I was a junior in high school, we got a new principal. The old principal was widely respected and told the school board that he was not sure that their choice for his replacement was a good idea. He always knew what was going on anywhere and knew she was a Karen. I had classes with the new principal's daughter for years before this. The daughter was a slacker who mostly got good grades because her mother would bully teachers to change the earned grade to a higher grade. I was a photographer for our yearbook and newspaper all during high school. The school had a great dark room that I spent hours in. Most of this time was before or after school. The janitor got to know me, and I brought him cookies or a piece of cake when I brought them to a class for a party or whatever, and gave me a set of keys to the school gates and the doors I needed to open to get to the dark room. He got tired of trying to roust me and my friends out of the dark room when he wanted to leave but had to lock up. The gate couldn't be set to open from the inside and lock behind you, so someone had to actually lock it. The dark room and the small office next to it that we used for retouching photos shared a wall with the principal's office. You could get up into the ceiling tiles by standing on the desk, or at least I could with my under 5 foot tall person. This wall was super thin, so we could eavesdrop on whatever the principal was talking about. That room came in handy. One of the seniors on the yearbook kept bottles of booze up in the ceiling. She had a drinking problem, and her parents searched her room and car, so she used the school instead. One day, she commented that she was not the only one keeping bottles of booze up there. Someone was keeping much more expensive bottles in the ceiling, but they were not over our dark room or office. I checked, and the bottles were pretty expensive. I recognized quite a few of them. We assumed they were nice principals, as none of us would leave an expensive or moderately expensive bottle of booze up there, especially not one that needed to be refrigerated after opening, like the Baileys. That evening was a Friday, so we got the bottles down and had a bit of a party. We put the leftovers back as there were only 3 of us, me and my 2 best friends, and none of us were big drinkers. On Monday, we had a deadline, so we spent most of the day in the dark room and office. Right after the principal took lunch, we heard scrabbling up in the ceiling. We knew she was getting into her booze. She was often drunk when she was a counselor at the high school the year before. It was not a big secret. Then we hear her muttering about stupid kids drinking her medicine. She went out and through the thicker walls into a main part of the office. We could hear her screaming about someone stealing her medicine. The office aides were all either kiss-ups or athletes, and in nice principal's mind, none of them would take her booze/medicine. They would never drink as they went to church every Sunday and were good kids. Keep in mind that most of them were hard drinkers at parties. I had more drunk shenanigans photos of these guys than of most of the kids in my school. After yelling in the office for a while, with the rest of the staff trying to shush her, principal comes into the journalism room. This was long before smartphones and surveillance cameras in school, but we usually had a camera set up to record video ready to go. Whenever nice principal bothered herself to come into the journalism room, we usually recorded her because she could be completely ridiculous. Principal: I need you to tell me who got into my medicine. I keep it over the ceiling tiles so that it won't get taken by anyone else. Teacher: I have no idea what you are talking about. If you take medicine, why do you keep it in your office ceiling tiles? That is crazy. Why not keep a day's worth in your purse? That would make far more sense, and no one could get into it. At this point, our teacher had no clue that she was talking about bottles of liquor. Principal: The bottles don't fit in my purse. I buy big bottles because it is cheaper. Besides, I cannot pull out a bottle at a meeting or have someone hear them clink in my purse. I would get fired. Teacher: How can they fire you for medicine? That makes no sense. And medicine comes in unbreakable bottles if it's prescription. They are usually plastic, so how would they clink? Principal: I don't have time to explain this. I have a parent meeting in 10 minutes. If my medicine is not replaced, I will suspend everyone in this program. Teacher: How would you do that? Why are you picking on my students? I don't think your aides would like it if we had to put all of their photos, especially not your daughter. Don't threaten me. I will have your job for speaking to me like this. Go for it. This recording of you having a shrieking fit will likely deal with that. You make no sense, and I don't even know what you are raving about. They had a party on school grounds using my alcohol. What alcohol? Why are you keeping alcohol on school grounds? You can be arrested for keeping it where students can get into it. You just fired a teacher who had a bottle of mouthwash in his desk because it wasn't alcohol-free. Are you saying your medicine is alcohol? Have you lost your mind? New principal, finally realizing that we have a camera aimed at her and that it is recording. You cannot take video of me with the school's equipment. That violates my rights. Give me that camera, now. It is school property, so you must. Teacher: Actually, it isn't school's property. School wouldn't buy one, so a parent loaned us this one. If you break it, you replace it. The parent is upset with you as it is. No parent would do that. No parent is upset with me. Your kid just got caught shoplifting and blamed the stuff in her own purse on the girl she was with, the girl whose parents loaned us the camera. So don't go touching that unless you want a lawsuit. We all know you made a deal to blame Stacy, not her real name, rather than your daughter, even though Stacy didn't have anything in her purse, and video shows your daughter putting it in her own purse. I am sure that Stacy's lawyer is going to love this video. You can't record me without permission. I never gave you permission, so you can't give that recording to Stacy or her lawyer. There is a sign on the door that says entering the room is giving permission to be recorded. So yes, we can record you. You approved the sign yourself. I am the principal. If I want that recorder, I can take it. I am taking it. By this point, she is shrieking. Teacher: No, you actually cannot. You can leave this room, or I can call the school board right now. Remember, I have been here a lot longer than you have. Don't push this onto my students. New principal leaves the room, still shrieking about thieves. Teacher speaking to the room: If any of you have alcohol above the ceiling tiles, you have until 9 tonight to remove them. I am going to the school board meeting, and afterward, someone will accompany me back here to see the tape and look in the ceiling. Any bottles up there that are not what new principal claims will be fingerprinted. I am sure the school board will call the cops. After school, we got the 3 bags of cheap vodka, mostly cherry if that detail interests you, out of the ceiling and left the principal's bottles and all of the empties she kept up in the ceiling. That evening, the entire school board showed up while we were putting the last details on the school newspaper. They put a new cassette into our video recorder and took video of all of the expensive bottles of booze. Well, more expensive than we could afford, and the many empties new principal left up there. New principal was gone for a month to rehab. After she came back, she couldn't suspend a student or expel one, or even put one on to probation without the school board's permission. They checked the ceiling every month after that, so our cherry vodka drinker found another place to store her booze. The recording of her shrieking about the booze and the teacher mentioning that deal to keep her daughter out of trouble had the school board asking the organization giving the scholarship to reconsider in light of new evidence. Our friend Stacy got the scholarship, and new principal's daughter lost that one. New principal's daughter also lost her other scholarships because now she was tainted. The other groups felt that if she shoplifted and then let her mother make deals to blame a girl who was innocent of the shoplifting, she didn't have good enough morals to represent them. Stacy ended up with 2 of those other scholarships as she was the next choice after new principal's daughter. Principal built a hiding place into the wall between her office and our journalism room. She just put a wall panel out and nailed a board into place between the studs. Then she put the wall panel back and moved a shelf into place to hide it. We cut the wall panel, backing it open, and drank her booze when we felt the desire for the rest of our time in school. New principal had to know it, but she never even came into the journalism room again. We were not big drinkers and never emptied a bottle between us. We had other sources and mostly used this one as an FU to new principal, and she knew it. At one point, we put the video camera into the ceiling and took video of her anytime we heard strange noises from her office. We caught her daughter changing her grades on the school system and new principal hooking up with several teachers. And we heard her blackmailing parents over stuff their kids did that they didn't want the community to hear about. We found this quite amusing from new principal after her holier than thou because I have been to rehab and dedicated my life to God again attitude. At one point, I went over the wall between our office and her office to leave some photos on her desk. She could not figure out how they got on her desk. It didn't occur to her that a very small student, under 5 feet tall and only 80 pounds back then, could go over the wall. It drove her crazy. I think I also left her wall stash open a couple of times. I just opened ours and pushed hers open. This was done purely to mess with her. It drove her crazy. We put a latch on each side of our panel, and it was bigger than new principal's, so she never figured out how it was done. She thought someone came into her office to do it. Yes, our teacher knew most of what we did. She was cool as long as nobody drove drunk and we didn't ever leave messes or fingerprints. She kept white cotton gloves for us to use when handling photos, so there was no excuse for leaving our fingerprints according to her. She had been teaching for over 50 years and we didn't get much by her. When new principal tried keeping other things up in the ceiling, teacher knew. She also knew we took some of it sometimes. Mostly, she kept things she shouldn't have had up there. She also kept money, often up to $1,000. It was money that new principal got from blackmailing people. We heard her threatening them over the phone. She was always very loud, even on the phone, so our teacher didn't care if we messed with new principal. And our final story of the day. Entitled Mom and Entitled Dad destroy stadium seats, try to make me give their beloved little brat my seat. Our cast. We've got me. We've got my brother. We've got my dad. We've got Karen. We've got Karen's husband. We've got Entitled Kid. And we've got some staff member. So, story happened a few years ago, so I may not write everything how it exactly happened. I was 12 to 13, something like that. Me and my 11-year-old by that time brother decided to go to a football match. By football, I mean that sport that Europeans call football, and some other people outside Europe call soccer. Not a league match, FT clubs, as it's very dangerous due to the extreme amount of hooligans throwing firecrackers, etc. But for a national, friendly featuring my country, nothing important really. There wasn't a big competition coming, and the opponent was much worse than our team, So even though national team matches always bring so many fans to the stadium, mostly 8 to 10-year-old kids though, there was still a lot of empty seats. We have reserved our tickets on, I think, the 5th row beside the goal, so a really comfortable view. Our dad came with us. About half an hour before the match started, my dad went to a bathroom and left us alone for a little while. That's when we see Entitled Mom, Entitled Dad, and Entitled Kid. At first, me and my bro didn't think they were going to even talk to us, just that they have reserved seats nearby. We started talking, completely paying zero attention to them, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Entitled Mom. Hello? Me, confused. Hello? Awkward silence. Entitled Dad. Karen, let's get to the point. They tell us. Would you mind giving us these seats? I was 12 years old at that moment, and I was kind of cowardly. Not really when around someone I knew though. So I managed to say, why would we? Entitled Dad. Hey young man, be nice. Listen, me, Karen, and our kid have reserved seats up there. Point somewhere to the left. But since there's a lot of trash and there's a bad view, we would like to sit there. Me. Looks around. There were plenty of people in the same row and lower ones. There were some empty seats, but nowhere near 3 in a row. But there are plenty of people that might free their seats for you. Why must it be us? Perfectly realizes that's because they've seen our dad leave. Entitled Kid tried to say something, but Karen shushed him. Karen. And why not you? You looked so nice, and we thought maybe you would act like it. My brother, a pretty smart kid for his age, trying to just waste time for our dad to come. We haven't been to a football match ever, and it's my birthday. Was obviously lying, and that was visible. Entitled Dad is angered. How dare you lie to me like that, you little… Insert rude term for a kid here. Give me the seats, now. Besides, where are your tickets? How can I know they're yours? Me and my brother realized Dad had them, so until he came back, we couldn't get rid of them. Me. Sir, we're going nowhere. Sorry. Oh boy. Entitled Mom starts screaming. Security! People without tickets here. Kick them out. Entitled Dad grabs my brother's seat, tries to do whatever he was going to do. It breaks as it was plastic. The whole stadium is now looking at the situation. Security pulls up. Excuse me, what's the problem? Entitled Mom. These little brats are here without supervision and tickets. I lost my temper. Then how the heck did we get in? Security cuts my word. Hey, calm down, please, young man. Is that true? My brother is kind of terrified. Our dad had the tickets in his pockets and went to the bathroom. Entitled Dad. Not true. Security, stop. Let's wait a while and check out if it's true. Entitled Mom stares at him nervously. Entitled Dad tries to hide the broken seat. Me, remembering about the seat. Hey mister, could you look down there? This seat is broken, and I think it wasn't before Entitled Dad touched it. Security is looking at it. Well, are you sure it was not broken before? Or maybe you broke it? Me. How could I or my brother break it? I would have needed more space and a hammer. Jokingly, of course. Security. I'm concerned it may have been broken before. Dad finally comes back from the journey. My dad. Oh my, excuse me. What happened there? Security. I have been reported these kids were here without tickets or supervision. My dad. Well, I am their dad, and here are the tickets. Pulls them out of his pocket. Security checks them. Your reaction was completely unreasonable, Mr. Entitled Dad and Mrs. Entitled Mom. You caused unnecessary trouble and tried to commit de facto a fraud. If an incident like this happens again, you will be removed from the stadium area. Where are your seats? Entitled Dad points to the same area as he did before. There. Your tickets, please? Entitled Dad searches for tickets, finds only Entitled Moms and their kids. Oh, I must have lost mine. You had a lot of time to come to the ticket clerk and clarify the situation. Now, as there'll be a match in about 15 minutes, I must ask you to leave this place. They went back. I don't know how the story ended, but my country won the match and we were satisfied, both with the situation ending and the match end result. Cheap entitled parent intentionally damages rental car, gets sent to collections. Backstory. I worked at a major rental car company right when I graduated undergrad as a rental agent. I helped an incredible amount of entitled parents, but this one stood out more than normal. If you are wondering, the company is associated with green. Story. A family of 5 walk in, probably around 10:30 p.m., and it was my 12th hour there that night. Very long scheduled hours. At this time, there aren't too many customers walking in, and only a handful of agents, so naturally, the father walks straight up to me and says, "I need my car, now." Now usually, this isn't the way customers make their entrance, but with the time and all, I just go along and ask for an ID, and proceed to process his reservation. This said, I see he reserved a compact car, Nissan Note-sized car, and ask at the counter if he wanted to pay something like $15 more per day for a full-sized car. He basically cuts me off and says he isn't paying a dime more for crap. Obviously, this guy is a jerk, and I see his tired family behind him, so I just say okay and complete the reservation ticket and walk him out to the car. The second he sees the car, he looks at me and says, No, this won't work. I can't fit my family." So I tell him I could get him into a bigger car for like $15 per day, or even an SUV for a little more, but he stops me and says, "Listen to me. I'm not paying a gosh darn dime for anything more. Just get me something bigger, now." I have dealt with this kind of entitled parent before, so I just say that we couldn't do that for free, so he can either pay more or take what he reserved. He doesn't like this at all and plays the sympathy card. I tell him no, and he huffs and says fine, and that he'll just get this one. He shoves his poor family into this tiny car with about half their luggage in their lap. I have him sign off on all the documents. Note, he actually bought the damaged car insurance, CDW is what we call it, and drives off. A week later, he returns, and literally all the luggage was strapped with a rope to the top of the car. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem, but the amount of luggage literally concaved the roof in on itself, and there was a massive dent where it was left. I wasn't working returns at the time, but my manager radioed me over because the entitled dad was apparently yelling at my manager and complained that I screwed him out of a good vacation. I explain what happened to my manager with the entitled dad present, and my manager explains to him that this was intentional damage, therefore waiving the insurance he purchased. Because of this, we need to collect his insurance information and file a claim. Entitled dad gets furious and starts screaming that we're all jerks and kicks the car, denting it further. He snags his luggage and starts running with his family to get on the complimentary shuttle to the airport. We watch, unamused, as he boards the shuttle and has to wait for it to depart. But policy states we don't chase anybody. Result? We charge his card for the cost of the rental and insurance and send him to collections for the damages. He was also placed on the Do Not Rent list. Yes, that exists. I cannot wait until he tries to rent the next time. I know this isn't the most entertaining story, but his behavior was beyond childish and absolutely unbelievable. Ask anything about the rental industry and I'll happily respond. Next we've got entitled parent on Do Not Rent list throws tantrum when he couldn't rent a car. Per my last post, I'll tell you a story of when one customer tried to rent from me, rental car agency, when he was on a Do Not Rent list. Yes, this exists. Last post gave some more backstory, but I worked for a large rental car agency that is commonly associated with green for those of you who have served time there. It was maybe 6 p.m. and we were busy, like 30 customers in line waiting to rent a car. This guy, his girlfriend, and his kid walk up to the counter where I was writing tickets/contracts, and he seems like a typical Colorado traveler. He had a sideways flat-brimmed hat with pot leaves on it, a black Monster shirt, a total Kyle. His girlfriend and kid were pretty absent and not really present during this, so they're not that relevant. Anyway, I take his ID, and when I put in his license number, the program flags him as a do not rent customer. This happens pretty infrequently, and I know it could be embarrassing, so I just kind of put my head over the counter and whisper that he has a precious claim under his license that prevents him from renting. Note, the claim suggested he owes over $1,800 to the company due to a previous claim. The message also provides a phone number for the customer to call in order to dispute or pay the fine for them to rent. Per policy, I can only tell him the number, but cannot remove him myself from the DNR list. Only corporate admins have this privilege. So I tell him the number and instruct him to call it so I can start processing other customers in line, mostly business customers. He freaks out and starts screaming at me. He says something around the lines of, "I never damaged that darn car, you idiot." Now, I don't have any visibility to see what he did or did not do, so I just say sorry, but I literally could not process his license without clearing the accusation. So I tell him that unfortunately, I cannot do much for him until he calls the number, and usually, this is where they walk out or just call the number to resolve the issue. Not this guy. He literally throws his open bottle of water at me and gets my suit all wet. He then takes the glass of water from the customer next to him and chucks it into the crowd of people waiting to be helped. Now they're all mad too. This isn't the first time I've had something thrown at me, but this is the first time I've ever had a customer throw something at other customers, so I call my manager to have him help. The dude just starts throwing literally everything he could grab in basically any direction, so we have to call the police. The police come, and by now, the guy, his girlfriend, and their kid are sitting in the back, despite us telling him to leave. On his phone, we direct the police to the dude, and he starts trying to tell them that he has a right to have a car, and that we are breaking the law for not giving him the car. Obviously, there is no law saying that a private company is obligated to rent a car to any customers, and this definitely isn't the first time these police officers have been to our facility, so they just tell him that he needs to go. Entitled Dad refuses. The police end up having to cuff the guy, and on his way out, he starts yelling threats at us like, "I'll burn this place down with all you in it." Either way, we comped a bunch of actually nice customers a day off their rental because they got sprayed with water, and the dude will never rent from this company again. Next we've got, "My son's cold is more important than your opened wound." Hi there, I'm Ryan. I just got my appendix out about a week ago. Just to explain, an appendix is a useless piece of flesh of your big intestines that does nothing for your body, except sometimes when you're unlucky like me, food can get stuck there and start to give you an infection because of the stuck bacteria. It needs to get taken out of your body, or else the appendix explodes in your body and all the bacteria flies everywhere in your body, which isn't good at all for your body, and it gives you a huge chance of dying. So now onto the story. Middle of the night, I felt my stomach start to hurt very badly. I didn't really think anything of it because I thought it was just a stomach ache, but later on, my bowels area started to hurt when I would take breaths in, so I started to panic. I couldn't sleep it off, and I've never felt this before, so I knew something was wrong. I woke up my mother and told her what was going on. She knew right away what was going on because apparently this happened to my grandfather too, and we shared the same symptoms. She rushed me to the ER as fast as she could. When we arrived, we were told I was first on the treatment list to see what was going on, but I would have to wait for an hour since there was another patient being looked at, so I had to wait a while before I could get looked at. Here comes entitled mom and her son. She enters the waiting room and right away put me in a state of shock. Entitled Mom: What do you mean my son has to wait in a queue? There's no other sick people here. Receptionist: Sorry, ma'am. This young man over here is first for the queue, so you'll have to wait for him. Entitled Mom: Ugh, he doesn't even look sick. Look at my poor baby boy. The baby boy looked like he was a minimum of 14. He's so pale. Why isn't he priority? I'm sure that boy over there is faking his sickness. He looks fine. I look at her dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that a woman like her exists. I look over to her son, and I can tell that he wishes someone else took him to the ER instead of his mom. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be talked bad about, so I stand up and start to walk over to her and say, Are you kidding me? I've been waiting here for over an hour. Just breathing hurts me. What makes you think that your son is more important than me? My appendix is infected. I might die. I don't like waiting here either, lady, but that's just the reality of it. How dare you talk to me like that? You standing up just proves that you're perfectly fine. If it hurts to breathe, how can you talk to me like that? She starts to come up close to me, and she keeps rambling on about how I'm faking it, saying I'm doing it just to get high off of painkillers. While saying all this, she's pushing me into a corner of the room. I'm starting to panic because I don't have the strength to really resist because I'm lacking a bunch of sleep, and she's pushing me on my stomach because of her height. She's pushing on the part that hurts the most, so I can't really fight back. Then my savior, aka security, comes into the waiting room and stops the lady from attacking me. The officer:
What is going on in here?
This brat is faking a sickness and is stopping my son from getting treatment. Me, crying a bit: This lady attacked me because she's crazy and thinks I'm faking my appendix infection. Officer:
All right, I've heard enough. Lady, you and your son will have to wait outside this room to get treatment for your son.
But he's...
No buts. You assaulted a patient. If you don't want to wait outside the room, I'll escort you outside, and you'll need to get treatment from another hospital. Do you understand?
The lady says nothing and walks out of the room. I thank the security guard, and he walks off. I get called for my checkup, and it was confirmed I had an infection in my appendix and needed surgery ASAP. I got hooked up to one of these things and go back to the waiting room where I see the son. He comes up to me and says, "Hey man, I'm sorry." Me: "What? I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You'll need to be more specific. I've been awake for 22 hours now. I can barely remember anything right now." Son: "For my mom and what she did. She can be a psycho sometimes. Sorry you had to be on the receiving end of it." Me: "Oh yeah, that girl. Don't worry about it, man. I feel worse for you, man, having a mom like her. Whatever you have, hope you get better." And that's it. Never heard from either of them again. Told my mom later what happened. We had a small laugh. Got taken to the operation room, and they took the appendix out. So now I'm just recovering. Edit. Thanks for the information for the use of my appendix. I now know. Sorry for the misinformation. The information I got was from my surgeon and the doctor that told me I had the infection, so I just kinda took their word on it since, they've studied it their whole life. Edit 2. I now know that the thing is an IV drip. Thanks for telling me. Edit 3. OMG, thanks for Reddit Platinum. Next we've got: a wild Karen breaks into my family's home because the front gate was open. Hey Mr. Reddit, long-time lurker and first-time poster here. Before I start, here's a bit of backstory. Now, I live in a fairly big house, and when I say big, I mean it takes 5 hours just to get the basic rooms clean, such as the kitchen, foyer, and library. That doesn't include the basement, art rooms, playroom, living room, guest rooms, as well as a few other random rooms. On top of that, we had a lot of animals, and still do. My mom and I were the main ones who cleaned the house and cared for the animals. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Now, I live in a small town, and they've made so many rumors that in person, it's likely I'd never tell someone which house I live in, just so I could have some peace from all the drama. It became more clear to me how much I was judged by my home, and I even at points of time felt embarrassed for living there. It doesn't help that when my stepfather, the owner of the house, decided to try and sell our home, which wasn't successful at all, I was harassed daily. And one time, I was literally in gym class doing the daily jog before lessons when some random kid came up to me and said, "Can I buy your house so I can burn it down?" Yeah, it wasn't fun, especially since I am highly autistic, so I took this seriously. When I was 14, I was depressed because of all the drama, as well as some serious family issues that were going on at the time. It got so bad that when I became a sophomore at 15, I started to not only request classes with people I didn't know, but I started to hide facts about my home. Some friends didn't see my home until after high school graduation. Making the change helped a lot during my school life. Of course, at home, that was a different story. There would be people outside the gate taking pictures and asking for tours constantly. Every day guaranteed it, and sometimes our gate would break. This is highly relevant to this story, which I shall begin now. This event happened a few years ago. Around the time, my family once again had issues with their gate, parts being old, as well as bad weather causing some decent damage to circuits or whatnot. So we had to keep the gate doors open to allow ourselves in and out of the house. I did worry sometimes because this was a common occurrence at the time, and regardless of how much money my stepdad owned, he was still crazy cheap with the necessities, meaning the gate wasn't getting proper care. Of course, prior to this event, we never had someone actually trespass on our property so openly before, walk into our house unannounced, and act as if they did nothing wrong. This Karen, however, did. Not surprising, I know. Sadly, she did not have the Karen haircut that we all know and love to hate, but her hair was still saying that she was the boss of everyone else. Now, I was in the kitchen trying to relax after doing my daily chores when I heard the bells attached to the front door make their signature sound. The woman, Karen, walked in with her granddaughter, who we'll call SK for small kid. S1 will stand for my first sister, S2 will be my other sister, SD will be my stepdad, Mom will be Mom, and I'm sure you'll know what me stands for. This will be paraphrased since this happened a few years ago. So the front door opened and closed, and Sister 1 and I didn't think much of it, as stepdad always went outside to work on his building projects and comes inside for breaks all the time, usually through the front door. We also heard the bathroom next to the front door be used, which was normal. But it was when we heard a feminine voice, one we didn't recognize, when I shared a look with Sister 1. Sister 1 asked, "Who's that?" I shrugged, confused, as I thought that at first stepdad decided to invite people over, which he would do when in a mania. Completely different Entitled Parents story there. Even though stepdad often did bring strangers to our house, it didn't stop our intrigue. And being teens, weary ones at that, we went to the foyer to see if we were right, or if we were losing our minds. As we did, Sister 2 decided to exit her own room out of curiosity. We saw a woman with a small child. Say hello to our Karen in her full glory. Karen looked at the furniture and scenery of our foyer, almost like an excited kid. "What a lovely house you have," she complimented, not even giving mind to the fact she literally barged into our home. Sister 1 and Sister 2 were slightly shocked and upset, but they were shy and didn't speak out like I did and currently do. I glared at the woman, furious someone was basically breaking and entering. "Who are you? And why are you in our house?" I was refraining from being a jerk only because there was a small child with this woman, and the kid was literally 3. Besides, she wasn't a bad kid from what I could tell, and it wasn't her that decided to break into a house. It was Karen's. Karen gave me a smug smile, almost as if it was obvious. "Well, the gate was open, so I thought it was open to the public." "It's not," I told her, mentally fuming. It was hard to hold my temper,
and I was literally 15, so I still had the anger from the previous year in mind. By this time, my stepdad made it there. The grin Karen had didn't fade. Instead, it became even more smug than before. "It isn't? Oh well. I'd apologize and regret coming here if this house wasn't so nice." She laughed as she basically gestured to her kid. "Isn't it nice?" Her kid smiled and innocently nodded, causing Karen to talk more about how she was the kid's grandmother and she wanted the best for her. I let stepdad talk to her, and eventually, he successfully made her leave with her granddaughter. He didn't call the police though, mostly because he was afraid to. He was already dealing with a court case involving my stepsister's mother who was fairly crazy and wanted custody of both Sister 1 and Sister 2. My mom came downstairs shortly after, and when she did, my sisters and I told her what happened. Needless to say, she wasn't happy this happened either. She ended up having a long talk with stepdad about getting the proper equipment for fixing the gate, and for the next few weeks, I believe my entire family was on edge. But hey, at least we never saw Karen again. Next we've got parents arguing about my birthday dinner. Now, to start off, my parents are not totally entitled people. They are great parents. They tend to the needs of the people they care about, and they sacrificed a lot for myself and my brother. I could rely on them for 99% of the time, and they helped me through so many problems. There is no way I could ever pay them back, though I try. However, 1% of the time, entitled. They do things that are purely selfish, and it always ends in some kind of a fight. They never think about how I feel about what they plan when they get this way, and just do things without considering my feelings, especially when it's about me. In this case, my birthday dinner. On my mom's birthday, my dad and I treat her to an Asian buffet she loves to go to, or any Asian restaurant. On my dad's birthday, my mom and I either make him dinner, buy dinner at a fast food place he likes, or take him to a new barbecue restaurant he was interested in. Now, of course, neither my mom or my dad will argue with one another about where to eat. It is their day, and this is what they want, though I usually just give dad my share of the money for the Asian restaurant. I don't like Asian food. It never sits well with me for some reason. Otherwise, we always find something we all like to eat. Yet, on my birthday, my parents will argue about where I want to go every darn year. They always complain about the restaurants I want to go to. Now, if it was just about prices, that's okay. I understand. But they claim that they either can never find something to eat, or the staff was rude to them in some way, or they just don't like the place because some idiot from another branch did something my parents didn't like. So that one idiot made my parents not want to go to that place that isn't the one that the idiot worked at in protest, even though the idiot only did the stupid thing in that one spot. They will try their best to change my mind, going to places or ordering from places they want to order from. Now, of course, I want to make sure they also have something to eat if we go someplace, so I choose the places very carefully, but always they complain. I mean, one year, I told them I wanted to go to Bob Evans. Mom and Dad didn't like that place because in another state, at another restaurant, they had a rude waitress who was a total jerk, seriously. So even though that jerk was in another building in another state, my parents didn't want to eat there. I wanted to eat at this buffet, but my parents said that the food was always so salty no matter what they eat, though they never complained about it before. I recommend Red Robin's, and my mom doesn't like the fact that they have music up so high, even though they are nice enough to lower the volume on the speakers if you ask nicely enough. Okay, so order out or fast food. Pizza Hut. They stopped making sandwiches that my mom liked. KFC. Too fatty for my dad apparently. McDonald's. I can have that any other day. And so on. I asked them where they wanted to go to. Mom suggested the Asian place because they have food there that I can eat. Never mind the fact that every time I go there, I get sick off of their food. My dad suggested Long John Silver, even though fish is neither friend nor food with me. Okay, so I suggest I make myself dinner. Cue them complaining about everything I try to make. I gave up and decided just to have leftovers and whatever was left of my cake before Dad accidentally dropped it on the floor while trying to put it away. He felt really bad about that, so he bought another cake. Denny's worked very well for a few years. No complaints about it from either of my folks, until they closed earlier this year, and it was the only Denny's we could drive to on our gas budget. So yeah, going to research restaurants and driving distances so I can get some darn dinner on my birthday. Yes, I talked to them about this. Yes, they promised to do better. They do most of the time, but I still have these moments where I just want to throw a pillow at their heads. Former boss botches me, then tries to withhold pay when I quit. Pays the ultimate piper when I push back. I consider myself a decent person and an above-average employee. I worked for a medical office directly under a doctor for almost 2 years and was consistently facing issues with him from the start. He was aloof, unhelpful, didn't want to train or help establish protocol, just wanted me to run everything and take the fall for anything that went wrong. He was married and had children, but he flirted and slept with numerous patients and staff members. This isn't unheard of in this field, so I often just kept my nose down and tried to do my best at my job, regardless of his after-hour activities. Problems started to arise more and more though, as he hired people based on looks and his attraction to them versus their qualifications to do the job. I tolerated a lot of BS, but the last straw was when he wanted me to do somewhat illegal activities financially, and when I refused, the games began. I could sense that he was unhappy with my unwillingness to do whatever he wanted me to, willy-nilly, but didn't think he was upset enough to justify punishing me or trying to get rid of me in any way. Then, literally, all heck broke loose after a minor procedure I had him do for me. We were in good standing, or so I thought, and I thought nothing of having him do it at the time. What sucked royally is that he botched my procedure and caused permanent damage. That wasn't even the worst part. The way he dealt with it was. Instead of apologizing and offering to make it right, to which I'm pretty understanding and would have accepted, he denied anything was even wrong or had happened under his care. He went into total cover my butt mode and methodically started to try to get rid of me without firing me, as it would definitely be wrongful termination, and the tension was becoming unbearable more and more each day. I was hoping he would make it right and we could move on, but instead, every day he was full of scrutiny of my choices and work, and even a write-up for a minor offense that I had no prior warning about. I could see the writing on the wall and realized he was going to wash his hands of me as quickly as possible to preserve his precious reputation, which I could definitely disrupt now with his mistake with me. I noticed shortly after, while on a planned vacation, he was advertising for my job. I decided to quit then and there instead of being fired. I was trying to fix the botch prior to quitting and hoping he would help financially. Nope, not gonna happen. Told him I was quitting, and since we were under very abnormal circumstances, that I would not be offering my typical 2-week notice. He was mad. He was late with my last paycheck, in which he sent a snide letter with telling me he was done with me and my care with him. I noticed that the check was short for 2 sick days I had taken after the botch. We are talking around $275, but it was still enough money that I felt rightly owed. I had a ton of sick pay left and didn't even give it a second thought until now, and thought maybe he just forgot to add it. Nope, he responded curtly, saying I hadn't accumulated enough time to pay for the days. I asked to see proof of that because I knew I had enough time. He changed the accumulation date to another month and said tough luck, wasn't going to pay. I told him blatantly that this was wrong and that I would have to report it to the labor board if he couldn't show me proof. He just bullied me back and insisted it is what he says it is, and again, tough luck. He even said to quit contacting him about it, or he would report me for harassment to law enforcement. So I went to the labor board. I brought in my contract and asked them about numerous questionable offenses. They couldn't believe how many skewed things were actually going on that I had accepted because I didn't know or he had convinced me otherwise. They had me file for all of the offenses and said they would send us both a letter letting us know the mediation date. Got the letter in the mail from the labor board and almost fell over dead right then and there. What was originally a $275 offense with the other minor claims and now penalties added from the labor board, the total was now $6,500. I laughed hysterically and couldn't believe it at first. I thought about him receiving the same letter that day and just reveled at the thought admittedly. Keep in mind, he didn't know at this point that I had actually went to the labor board as I promised. He didn't think I would do it. He thought he had won up to this point. Mediation day rolls around and he sits across from me with the mediator there and is steaming under the pressure now. We both share our sides, which he lied about numerous things of course, and then we talk separately with the mediator. She explains to me that my case may be hard to prove, being somewhat he said, she said. She encourages me to kind of take whatever he offers. Before leaving the room with her, I bring up one more thing to her that I was unsure of and didn't ask about before. It involved him not paying overtime, and she lit up like a dang Christmas tree. Bingo. With that type of offense, and me being able to show verifiable proof, he would have to pay the penalties starting at $6,000 and whatever the judge added after that. She went and told him of this new claim, and he fumed out of the building saying I shouldn't be able to add anything at this point, not the case at all, and that he needed to speak with his lawyer. I get a new claim in the mail with the added offense weeks later. The total is now $9,600. I die again laughing and just basking in the thought of him getting this new claim. There was no contact from him this whole time, but now suddenly there is an email sent to me in the sweetest tone I've ever heard him speak. He pleaded with me that he never meant to withhold anything from me and that he would like to settle all this peacefully outside of the court. Of course he would, I thought to myself. I forwarded the email to our mediator and told her that I did not want to respond and asked her to deal with him and let him know I wanted to continue the no contact he requested earlier. Weeks go by. We are creeping closer to a court date. Suddenly, the offer rolls in for $4,000 and he will settle. I was set on $5,000 because of all the hassle I had to go through up to this point. I tell the mediator to tell him, nope, $6,000. Silence for another week or two. Then the offer of $5,000 comes. That was my number, so I waited a couple days just to shake him up a bit more, and the mediator let him know I'd accept it. I received the payoff within a week, and then I got to wash my hands of him in the end. He thought he could cheat me and bully me, as I'm sure he has gotten away with in the past. I gave him a swift lesson that could have just cost him $275 to do the right thing. But now I'm going on a vacation to Hawaii and will sip a Mai Tai on his dime for trying to take back what I had rightfully earned and more. Edit. Thank you for the gold. I don't know exactly what that means, but that and all of the words of support and understanding have meant so much to me after such a trying time. Next we've got, yell at me and my staff? Fine. Good luck running the office on your own. I used to work in a small, family-owned doctor's office. A couple of years in, they got in a legal fight and experienced staff starting to leave. Being young and dumb, I wanted to be loyal and ended up managing half of the doctor's office. The other half was managed by Brittany. She had a team of 3 that did the work of 6. The company got bought and a new owner came in. He was like Danny DeVito in gold chains and a bad toupee. He was dumb and no one respected him. He screamed constantly about little things at anyone. He micromanaged and didn't bother to understand someone's job before telling them how to do it better. He tried to streamline processes without knowing how they worked, but mostly he yelled. One day, the hardest working person in the entire clinic, a nurse who started every appointment, was a few minutes late. She was a single mother and her kid was sick, so she showed up less than 10 minutes later than usual. Danny proceeded to berate the nurse in front of the entire office, scream about dumb things like being a few minutes late, then strange things like how she wrote dates, then absurd things like how her bedside manner sucked. She had gotten flowers the day before from a patient because she was so good. When the nurse put in her notice at the end of the day, Danny fired her on the spot, told her to leave and never come back. I had been job searching and had finally gotten an offer. I was planning on giving a lot of notice, but couldn't give notice if I'd be fired immediately. I had student loans and was paycheck to paycheck. I grabbed the 2 remaining members of the admin staff and explained that I was going to quit without notice before too long. Brittany understood and said she too was in the final stages of taking a new job. We agreed that we would quietly all find new jobs, then duck out when it was convenient. We had to quietly let all the other staff know, and each of us quietly started smuggling our personal effects out of the office. I had a start date 2 weeks out, but honestly couldn't give notice without risking my financial health. A week or so later, Danny started screaming about the color of tape I'd used to duct tape down a power cable months before. I had used orange and yellow to make it more visible, but Danny said that was unprofessional. I asked him how he'd like me to fix it. Danny: "Well, that's not my problem. That's yours." I paused for a second and said, "You know, I don't think that it is my problem. I'm out." I grabbed my small box of desk things as Danny howled at me. "You will never find another job in this town. I own every doctor's office in this county. I don't need you since I've got Brittany." Brittany looked at him and said, "I'd been meaning to tell you that today is my last day." We packed our things and walked out as Danny called the cops, saying his employees were stealing things like their own birthday cards and pictures of their kids. We texted the 3rd employee, who was on lunch, and explained what happened. It sounded like she didn't go back, and without front desk, billing, or nursing staff, a doctor's office simply can't run. I'm told they were closed for almost 2 weeks before they got temporary employees, but had no one to train them. Danny shuttered and resold the business a few months later to the big dog in the industry, which is a charity. Since their books are open, we saw that they bought the company, really just the clients list, for about 15% less than what Danny had paid a few months prior. Edit. Bit more information. The police did show up, and one of the officers who responded was a patient we had treated for months. Weeks later, Danny tried to withhold our final paychecks, claiming that we forfeited wages and we didn't give notice, illegal, and that we had stolen valuable intellectual property. He meant the passwords. He didn't know anyone's user IDs or passwords, so he had to pay an external IT team to get all of our files. And our final story of the day. Try to ruin my reputation? I'll make sure yours never recovers. This is long, so there's a too long didn't read at the end. It's kind of convoluted to explain, but this revenge is of the subtle, slow burn kind. Back in high school, I had a very small group of friends. My then best friend, who we'll call Jenna, was one of the only people who knew a lot about me. Not that I wouldn't tell people about myself, I just never bothered to unless asked. But Jenna and I would talk about everything and anything we could, as most best friends do. We had our ups and downs for sure, but in the end, we were inseparable. That is, until the incident happened. To make a long and frankly complicated story short, what happened is that one of my other friends and I wanted to celebrate our birthdays together, since we're a couple days apart. My friend was best pals with Jenna's ex, so I asked Jenna if she would be okay to party with her ex there. I said it was fine if she wasn't, and that we could go out to lunch or do something else. Jenna said it was okay, and we had a fun day at the amusement park. Up until about the last hour, where I was in line with Jenna's ex and a few of our friends while she went to get a locker. I guess I said something that her ex took as flirting and then kissed me. Literally, out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. No one else was expecting it. Least of all Jenna, who had turned around and was walking back to us at that exact moment. I was absolutely mortified. I profusely apologized to Jenna, even though everyone in my friend group agreed that I didn't initiate anything and that I was caught off guard and wasn't a consenting member. But Jenna was absolutely livid. At every opportunity she could, she'd bring it up to invalidate anything I disagreed with her on. It didn't matter what I said, how often I apologized, how genuine I was, or how crappy I felt about it. She kept bringing it up to hang over me. It was a gotcha card in any argument we had, and I eventually got sick of it and told her that, look, I have apologized so many times for an event that wasn't my fault. I wanted no part of it, and everyone in our group agreed that it was out of nowhere. After a while, we drifted apart because she was emotionally abusive towards me, and I finally put my foot down and ended our friendship. Come to find out later though, she was spreading lies and rumors about me to anyone who would listen. That I was an attention seeker, that I loved drama, that I was a terrible human being who feels nothing. Basically, she was telling people I was a sociopath with no empathy and an inability to care about other people. She used a lot of the deep, personal things I had told her against me. She turned people against me before they had even met me. Told them I was a jerk and callous and that I was looking for a reason to start drama, which cannot be further from the truth. I actively avoid drama at all costs because I do not have the time or energy to deal with the emotional toll it costs. My parents gave me enough emotional trauma to deal with. This is when I finally snapped, because it takes a lot to really get me riled up to a point where I'm gonna do something about it. But I had dealt with her emotional abuse for years, and I finally got sick of it and ended crap between us. But when she made a point to try to ruin my reputation, I finally snapped and had had enough. So I made it a point to do the same crap she was doing to me, but worse, and make it seem like I wasn't doing anything to her at all. In fact, I played it off like nothing was wrong at all. She had found another best friend after me, who we'll call Martha. Martha had just moved from Florida and had no previous knowledge of Jenna or me, but Jenna had turned her against me based solely on her undying thirst to get people to hate me. So I turned my kindness up to an 11. Martha and I had the same lunch, but Jenna didn't. I'd sit and talk to Martha and low-key put in little digs about Jenna that I knew Martha had a hard time dealing with. Didn't take long before Martha and I were best friends, and Jenna had to find someone new to associate with. She moved on to another girl, who we'll call Catherine. Same thing that I did to Martha, I did to Catherine. Found a little bit of irritation and made it grow into full-blown annoyance, nearing hatred. For some reason, Jenna could not keep a best friend for more than a few weeks before they'd blow up at her and stop talking to her. This would happen to every single person who would be her best friend. She'd befriend them, and I would swoop in and slowly turn them against her by using nothing but truths about her, unraveling her friendships before they could really take hold, with only the issues she would cause herself. Sometimes these problems would take a little longer to manifest themselves, but I'm a patient person when it comes to these kinds of things. The moment I saw a weakness, I would talk them away from it, simply being a minor issue to part of a full-blown problem that they personally had with her. I suppose I'd talk with them, in a way, rile them up so they'd be the ones to get mad at her without them ever connecting the pieces that it was me who got them there in the first place. When we eventually graduated, Jenna had no friends and was nearly universally hated. Not that I made up lies about her. Everything I did or said was true, and based on actual things she said or did that already annoyed people. I just got good at pointing that stuff out and forcing people to re-examine their relationships with her. She could never figure out why no one wanted to be friends with her, or why the people she was briefly friends with would leave her in the dust after a very short period of time. She had to move out of state for college because she had no friends from high school at home that she could associate with. No one wanted to be around Jenna. But in truth, all I had to do was point out how poorly she was treating people for them to realize how she was using them. She did most of the work herself. I just shortened the lifespan of her friendships and made it so she got a taste of her own medicine, minus the BS and lies. This may initially seem a little petty and childish, but I assure you, I cannot express how much her social life was secretly ruined without her ever realizing it. She never suspected me because I made sure to never say what annoyed me about her. I'd simply listen for a small bit of information, then take it and run with it. People never said it was me who was talking crap because in their minds, it was their own personal issue. In reality, I was the one who sent them over the edge. She believes people just hate her for no reason, not because she took her anger a step too far and pushed me over my limit. Entitled Mom tries to take my Naruto school supplies for Entitled Kid. Background. So about a month before school started, I was shopping with my sister. One store we went to was GameStop. I saw this box that had school supplies in the form of Naruto's favorite ramen, listing with pens, erasers, a USB stick, rubber bands, post notes, and paper clips. Me being the weeb I am, I was like, oh, I have to have that. So I bought it for $16 with my pro membership. Cast. We've got Entitled Mom, single mother that has no respect. We've got Entitled Kid, kid that can't take no. We've got the security guard, and we've got me, some weeb that can stand up for herself. P.S. My appearance makes me look male, so most people I first meet think I'm a boy. So I brought my supplies to school in a big sandwich box, because the bowl it came with is made of glass, and I took out one of my pens to take notes. P.S. I sit next to Entitled Kid, who came unprepared. Entitled Kid. Can I borrow a pen? Me. This is my only one. Sorry. I only had my Naruto pens, and I didn't want to give them to someone I didn't really know. But I saw you had an extra Dragon Ball pen. He actually called it Dragon Ball. Not kidding. I'm not comfortable sharing my pens with someone I don't know. Ask someone else. Whatever. He asked another student for a pen, and I thought, yay, happy ending. Boy, was I wrong. End of day, and I'm waiting for my dad and was on my phone when I hear, "Hey, boy in green jacket." I didn't think they were talking to me, because I'm a girl, so I ignore it. "Young man, I am talking to you." Then I feel a tap on my shoulder. I turn around and see a woman who almost looks 40, but is dressed like she's 20. "My son told me about those wonderful Dragon Ball supplies you have, and I was wondering if you could give him those for his birthday." In my mind, I was like, crap, a wild entitled mom appeared. I knew it wouldn't matter if I correct my gender, because I'm sure she'll be like, "Stop lying," or "You're trans? You jerk." Me. No, I bought them myself and would like to keep them. I got them at GameStop if you want to buy one. "No, I don't have that type of money. Do you know how hard it is being a single mother? I barely have enough money to make a living." Me. You'd probably have a lot more money if you didn't spend your child support on alcohol. "How dare you! Give me your Dragon Ball supplies as an apology for being rude to me." In my mind, I was thinking, wait, if Entitled Mom is here, where's Entitled Kid? Then I felt a presence behind me, and I was thinking, crap. I turn around and see Entitled Kid opening my bag. I quickly pushed him away and checked my bag to make sure I still had my stuff. I did. And for those who've been on this subreddit for a while, you know what's next, don't you? "How dare you assault my angel? Give me your Dragon Ball stuff, and I won't call the police on you." Entering the stage, security. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" Security knows me very well and is familiar with me, so I don't have a panic attack.
This brat assaulted entitled kid and took his Dragon Ball supplies.
Me. An entitled mother jumped me and tried to force me into giving her entitled kid my Naruto school supplies. Entitled mom then glares at me. Pretty sure she would assault me if security wasn't there. Let me see the supplies so we can figure this out. I pull out the box and hand it to security, but not without entitled mom trying to snatch it first. As security inspected the box, I knew how to prove the supplies were mine. Me. Hey security, pull out the egg and ask entitled kid what it is. Entitled mom and entitled kid looked a bit nervous, but when security held it up to them, they looked confident. Entitled kid. Eraser. He looks at me like I've been defeated. Me. It's actually a USB stick. Security removed the top of the egg, and guess what? It was a USB stick. Security. Here, OP, you proved yourself right. I have a female name, so of course entitled mom freaked.
A girl? You're a girl? Why do you look like a boy? Give my son your Dragon Ball supplies, you jerk.
Security. Enough. Leave OP alone before I call the police. This sure as heck got entitled mom running. And finally, my dad arrives. He asks why I was with security, and I explain the situation. His face got red, and he looks for entitled mom, but they already left the school. He went to the principal and told her what happened, so we'll have a meeting next week with entitled mom and entitled kid. If they have the courage to come, that is. I'll update if anything happens. Entitled mom tries to take my Naruto school supplies for entitled kid. Update. So the principal got a hold of entitled mom, and she had the Dragon Balls to show up to a meeting we're having with principal, entitled mom, entitled kid, me, mother, and security guard that helped me. So we're all in the principal's office. Principal is sitting at the end of the table. Entitled mom and entitled kid are sitting on the side of the table, both glaring at me. Entitled mom has her arms and legs crossed while huffing. Me and mom are sitting on the other side of the table. I have a blank expression on my face while mom tries to calm herself down. Security is standing next to us because 1, he's a witness, and 2, to make sure entitled mom doesn't go crazy again. Principal. OP, can you explain what happened? Entitled mom.
She won't give my angel her Dragon Ball stuff.
She said she sarcastically. Principal. Entitled mom, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to OP. Now, OP, please explain what happened. I explain what happened. Entitled mom tells mom,
you should teach your daughter to share and be more giving.
Mom now has a vein popping out of her head. Principal. Entitled mom, this is not time for you to talk. Entitled mom huffs. Principal. Security, can you confirm that OP is telling the truth? Security. Yes, she is. She confirmed the items that entitled kid didn't know, and I recorded footage from the cameras before the meeting to show you. Principal watches the CCTV footage. Entitled mom.
It doesn't matter if they're hers or not. Entitled kid loves Dragon Ball way more than she does.
Me, about to drop the bomb. If he loves Dragon Ball so much, then why did he mistake Naruto, which is what the anime is called, for it? Entitled mom and entitled kid go red. Entitled mom.
Entitled kid is smarter than you. You are the one that is mistaking it. That's why entitled kid should have them, and not a jerk like you.
Principal. Enough. For the past 2 years, entitled kid has bullied and tormented other students, and I will not have a 3rd year. Principal, now looking at us. OP, mother, can you please step out of the office for 1 moment? Me and mom did just that. There was some muffled talking, which then turned into screaming. A few seconds later, security walks out with entitled mom in cuffs as she yells and tries to escape from him. A few seconds later, entitled kid walks out with tears in his eyes. Principal invites us back in. Principal. I'm very sorry for their behavior, but they won't be a bother to you anymore. You may leave now." Mom takes me home for the rest of the day, and the next day there was an empty seat next to me. P.S. If you're wondering why my dad wasn't there, it's because Mom talked him out of it, because she knew he would only make the situation worse. Edit. Yes, entitled Mom got arrested. And if you are wondering where the cuffs came from, it's that all security at my school have cuffs to restrain people who are out of control. And entitled kid got expelled. I don't know what else happened to him though. And my dad would make it worse because when he is mad, he gets aggressive. So we wouldn't have any say because the meeting would be filled with my father screaming. He's a good guy. He just has a different way of handling things. Next we've got Woman at the Blueberry Festival leaves me shocked. Backstory. My family comes from a country-esque area where your closest neighbor is a short walk down the road and a trip into town can last close to 2 hours, 30 minutes back and forth, plus whatever time you need to run whatever errands you have. My family is also one of the oldest settled names in the area and is well known for my grandfather and great-uncle's contributions to our community. For the longest while, the road my family lived on was a common dirt road, and the closest fire department was 20 minutes away. Wanting their community to have what's best for everyone, my grandfather and great-uncle set to work. They gathered donations, lobbied with our local MLA, and collected statistics to show to our provincial government why paving our road and erecting a nearby fire department would be beneficial to not only the residents, providing them with safety and security, but also to any politicians to avoid lawsuits or larger, more expensive bills in the future. Long story short, their efforts were a success. In spring of 1982, the road was paved, the fire department was built, and my grandfather and great-uncle became chief and deputy chief respectively. My family's name was held in high regards after that, and almost everyone knew who our family consisted of. Not trying to brag, this info is just essential to the story. The story. A few days ago, I finished my summer contract working with the Canadian Reserve Forces and returned home. After settling in and unpacking, my dad came to me with a dilemma. The upcoming Blueberry Festival, a community formal dinner that the fire department held every year on August 17th to help raise funds, was understaffed, and he asked if I could volunteer. I said yes, and I showed up to help however I could. I waited tables, put together sandwiches, entertained guests, took tickets, etc. As the day wound down, I found myself working the takeout section. Things went fine for a bit. People would show me their tickets for the festival. I'd make idle conversation while their orders were put together, and I'd hand them their takeout dish. Then a woman and her 2 toddlers walked in, looked around for a bit, and then waltzed up to the window. Her. "Excuse me, I'd like 3 takeout dinners, please." Me. "Sure thing. You have your tickets, ma'am?" "I was told that my food would be put in reserve for when I picked it up, so no, I don't have them." This one was odd to me. The reason we sold tickets was so we never had to make more than what was needed. Even my family had to buy tickets if we wanted food. I explained to her that we didn't have any extra food made up, so just to be on the safe side, she would have to show me her tickets to receive her dinners. Her, with her kids, mind you. "Oh, that's BS. Do you know who I am? I'm family of grandfather. He said there'd be some food for me and my kids." Me, a little shocked, but taking her word as her being family, since my grandfather's side is pretty big. "Oh, I'm sorry. I can check with grandfather over the phone. Who do I tell him you are?" She gives a loud and exasperated huff before saying, "I'm," my mom's name, "his daughter-in-law." It took me a little bit to process what she just said. I asked her to repeat herself, which she did, adding, "What, are you deaf as well as stupid?" Thoroughly insulted and done with her, I told her that she was in fact not my mother, and if she wanted her food, She would either have to present her tickets or come up with a better lie than her current BS. She gave me the "How dare you?" face before going on a rant about how I should watch my language around her young kids, despite her just saying the exact same curse word to me moments before. Her tirade attracted the attention of my father, who was working with the fire department as well. He walked over and asked what was up. Before I could open my mouth, this lady goes ranting on about how she was promised free dinners for her and her kids by my grandfather, that I denied them, insulted her, and even had the audacity to claim that she wasn't even part of the family. My dad, being just as confused as I was, and not having any memory of her being part of the family, asks her who she was. She gave him the same reply as she did to me. "I'm my mom's name, and therefore my dad's wife." "Holy crap, is everyone here stupid?" My dad replied simply with, "Lady, you are most certainly not my wife." Her face gawked and turned bright red as her mind tried to form a response. In the end, she rushed her kids out the door and left. Next we've got Entitled Karen, where? At Walmart, of course. This happened a few months ago, but thought it would belong in here. English is my second language, so if grammar errors, sorry in advance. Cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Lady. And we've got Sweet Old Lady. I live by a Walmart. The uniform is a blue polo and black pants. I'm wearing black pants and a black shirt. I'm short, 5'2". I'm a woman, so no big deal. And browse in the store and see paper towels on sale, but they were on the top shelf. Ugh, just my luck. So I try to look for an employee, but no luck. But I see a cart that employees usually get to collect merchandise from the store to put back. I know this because said cart usually has a big advert taped on it, and in the cart I see a broom. Getting an idea to use the broom to get the paper towels, so I take it and return to the paper towels after getting a few for me. A sweet old lady comes up. "Hello, can you help me to get one?" "Yeah, sure." Using the broom, I topple another for her. She thanks me and leaves. I'm about to turn around and leave when I hear it. "Hey!" Entitled Lady, bottled blonde with the haircut. Why always the dang haircut? With a phone in her ear. "Hey you!" Snapping her fingers. "Aren't you going to get one for me? I'm waiting here." Me. What? Entitled Lady, talking like I'm stupid or slow. "Give me paper towels." I don't work here. Entitled Lady, ignoring me and going back to her phone. "Lazy employees. You have to be 100 years old to get any help. They are useless." Hold, honey. Then back to me. "I don't have time for this. Give me the broom. I'll get it myself." I don't take kindly to rude people, so my petty and rude side came up. Me. First, buzz off. Second, witches are not allowed to fly inside the store. Shoving the broom in my cart, I left. She gasped and started to rant to her phone. "Did you hear that? OMG." Literally, she said OMG, and told whoever she was talking to she was going to find a manager and will get me fired by the end of the day. I laughed and continued with my shopping. This store is big, so you can get out of view fairly quickly. 20 minutes later or so, I went to the register. I saw Karen. She was chewing out one of the managers and stomping her feet at customer service desk, but I did not get any closer where they could see me. Paid for my stuff, and while exiting the store, I said out loud, "Bye," waving at her, and then flipping her off when she looked at me. Her face was priceless. And our final story of the day. Entitled Mom is mad because I won't pay for her and entitled kids' lunch. So in case you have not read my recent posts, me and my girlfriend are in Cyprus and have only been here for 2 whole days, and this is already our second entitled parent encounter, except for the plane. The cast. We've got me, We've got girlfriend. We've got entitled mom. We've got entitled kid and the waiter. The story. Me and girlfriend decided to go into the local town called Prateros to get some lunch and see what is around. We see this restaurant, which only has a couple of people in there. We go in and sit down and order our food. When we finish, girlfriend gets up to use the bathroom while I go to pay. When waiter says the price to me, I was in shock because I added up what we had and it only came to about 25 euro. I told waiter that there must be some mistake, but he says that the person on the other side of the restaurant said we were paying for their lunch. I told him I was not, and me and waiter went over to entitled mom to tell her she had to pay for her own food. The conversation went like this. Waiter: hello ma'am, this young man says he will not be paying for your meal. Entitled mom: well, why not? I want him to. Me: why would I want to pay for your lunch? Entitled mom: to help a single mother and her child out. Me: not happening. You pay for yours and I pay for mine. Girlfriend: hey, you ready to leave? Me: not quite. She wants me to pay for her food. Girlfriend: well, that's not happening. She knows I don't take crap from anyone. Me: absolutely not. Waiter: sir, what did you order? And I'll make sure that is all you pay for. My meal, girlfriend's meal, and our drinks. Okay, cash or card? Cash. Entitled mom: do we get it for free? Waiter: why would you get it for free? Because of the stress you caused me and entitled kid. Waiter: no, you do not get it for free because we only said you have to pay. Fine, how much? Waiter: 40 euro. 40 euro? Yes, ma'am. Cash or card? I will only give you 20 in cash. So the rest on card? No, I am only paying 20, so you can shove the rest. You have to pay, or I will call the police. Entitled mom, clearly terrified of police. Okay. She left 40 on the table and leaves, but not without shoving me and girlfriend. I call her a jerk and give the waiter an extra 5 for his trouble, and we leave. Management tries to fire me. I turn the tables. This story is totally true. I think I still even have some of the certificates of appreciation in storage. I am not sure why some find it so unbelievable that a person wouldn't keep files and act professional. I have no reason to lie. I just wanted to share a true account of how I was almost fired and turned the tables on a bad supervisor and manager. I had a manager try and fire me for being rude to a caller. The caller wanted us to call internationally to confirm insurance. I asked the current floor supervisor if we could, and he said no, so I told the caller we couldn't. She ended the call, and I went to ask the supervisor if there was anything we could do, and was told we could not. I asked him to email that answer to me, and he did. I got called in and was told that I was unprofessional on the phones and that I was not following correct procedures and that I was being investigated with consideration that I would be fired. My supervisor had no spine, so was in agreement that I needed to be fired. I was told we do not ever tell a member no, and that she had spoken with a supervisor who told me to say no, and he denied it and claimed I never asked him. Luckily, I had 3 years of weekly emails I saved and printed out that showed me every Thursday asking my supervisor if I was doing okay on the phones, how I could improve, and if there were any classes I could take to improve my skill and knowledge. Every reply was praise and how well I was doing, how I was being considered as or doing well as a trainer. I became one after a year and had reviews of my work attached. Every single QA review gave me 100% scores, and I was the only one on the whole team who consistently got 100% reviews. I also had a large file full of customer compliments where they asked to speak with a supervisor to praise my work, and then I am given a certificate. I also included the email from the supervisor who instructed me to say no. I quietly put all this together in an inch-thick file and made 3 copies. I was called back to discuss my reprehensible behavior and to review calls I had made as evidence of my bad service. As we listened, the manager pointed out how cold and emotionless I sounded. I agreed that it could have been taken this way if one were to look for a problem, but my phone voice is always calm and careful so that I am easily understood. I have been told how much it is appreciated by our callers since we mostly deal with the elderly and doctor's offices, and they appreciated that my information was clearly presented, since misunderstandings can be very bad. I had customer compliments that often included appreciation for the way I spoke. 3 out of 5 of the calls we reviewed, she said were the worst interactions she had ever heard. I said that was odd since I had a certificate for all 3 calls, signed by my supervisor and her, and certificates weren't given out until the call was listened to. The other 2 problematic calls were ones where I had received a 100% score by the QA department. So I asked, "Well, my supervisor is telling me weekly that I am doing the best on the team. The QA department is telling me I am always meeting 100% of my goals, and the customers are giving me positive reviews. So, if my attitude has been such a problem for so long, why wasn't it addressed before?" No answer. I demanded to know why this issue was allowed to continue for so long. The manager asked me to return to my desk, but asked that I leave my folder of evidence for review, which I did. I went to lunch, and when I returned, I was told there was a computer error that wiped my email profile and all saved emails from my email account, and my computer had been reformatted to fix the error. I asked the supervisor about it, and she said she needed to talk to the manager. I was called in again and told that without any evidence to back up my claims of 100% QA scores and my customer appreciation certificates, they had no choice but to move forward. I asked where my printed copy went to, and manager claimed she didn't have it and that I had never given her a copy. So I pulled out another copy of all the paperwork and explained that deleting it off my computer didn't delete my copies, nor the copies she had no access to on the company cloud, which is where I backed up my information daily. Something that was so uncommon, the supervisor didn't even know it was something we could do. I then asked for an HR representative, and manager said I waived my right to having an HR rep present when I didn't ask for one at the start of this mess. I said the matter should be put to rest, and manager said she was the one who decided this, as she was the one in charge. She also handed me a write-up and demanded I sign it. I took the time to read it, and of course, it had me admitting that I was 100% at fault and that I would not retaliate in the slightest, regardless of action. It wasn't even on the company's disciplinary form. It was written in Word. I was done. I decided to just go with the nuclear option. Instead of quietly trying to talk to HR, I went far above their heads. I grabbed the write-up and walked out. Manager went to stop me until she saw me walk into the office of the director of all the call centers in the company, a guy who was magnitudes above her and who I was on friendly terms with. He asked what was up, and I told him that manager was in the process of trying to fire me. I gave him the write-up and my folder of evidence, and he went from friendly disinterest to dead serious. 30 minutes later, he finished reviewing everything and said, "Follow me." We returned to the manager's office, and she turned white when director told manager to call in supervisor and HR. He kept asking her what she was trying to do, why she was going after me, and why she felt it was okay to try and delete evidence from my computer. He never yelled. He would ask her a question and then patiently wait for an answer, which she couldn't give. Whenever she would bring me up or look at me, director would say something like, "No, don't look at him. You and I are talking right now." When supervisor arrived, he did the same to her. No answers, just stammering and half excuses. HR arrived, and manager jumped to speak over me to give her side. Supervisor did the same once manager was done. They were clearly trying to run out the clock since HR was a small department and had blocked out time for meetings. I finally mentioned this, and the HR person said that they had canceled all other meetings today and she would be there for as long as it took to get to the bottom of the issue. Manager looked enraged. Supervisor looked pale and terrified. I was then taken to a separate office to give my side. Manager said she had the right to be there, and the director told her and supervisor that they had the right to sit there and wait. Both were told they were not to leave until he told them they could, because both were known to disappear and go home if any problems happened on the floor. HR, director, and I had a nice chat. We went over my evidence and call history, listened to the call that started the whole landslide, and then asked if there was anything I think I could have done better. I said that I could have asked a different supervisor for help. I used the HR person's laptop to pull up my stuff I had saved on the cloud, and there it was. Document after document proving my side. Emails from supervisor, emails from manager, all praising me. Proof of my 100% QAs, everything. Director was almost gleeful that he had finally had something concrete because there had been complaints about the manager and supervisor, but those complaining never did anything. He called the QA manager in and got a statement about my QA scores and how I was professional 100% of the time, and pulled in supervisors from other teams who confirmed I was a pleasure to work with and always went above and beyond to help. It felt pretty good to know I was actually appreciated by people who matter. You don't get that often in a call center environment. They agreed I had done nothing wrong and asked that as far as they were concerned, the matter was closed for me. But they would be looking into manager and supervisor. They couldn't tell me anything officially, of course. Manager and supervisor got official disciplinary actions with threat to terminate if they were caught doing this again, ever. The supervisor was demoted and transferred out of the department completely. I heard that it basically ruined her career with the company since the actions were so serious. Manager ended up moving to a different office at a lower pay and about 40 minutes farther from her home because her actions against me opened the floodgates against her, and she could be fired or take the far worse position. She ended up quitting after about a month. Why did supervisor and manager decide they hated me? I don't know exactly what caused it, but apparently they had problems with me for a couple years and would talk to other employees about me behind my back about what a lazy and bad employee I was. Of course, some people agreed. That's the nature of the beast. But it was rewarding to know that most of them disagreed. Keep your paper trail, folks, and be friendly with upper management. Next we've got, make my life heck at multiple jobs? I'll get you fired. Backstory. In the early 2000s, I worked for overpriced CD store. I really liked my job aside from one coworker, Karen. We just didn't get along. I made the best of it, but she was a borderline bully. Of course, she gets promoted to key holder and proceeds to turn into a full-blown power trip bully. She made my life heck, and a job that I previously loved, I couldn't stand anymore. I made a formal complaint that made its way to HR, but I was done working there, which was her goal. Of course, when HR investigated my claims, they found she and the assistant manager were dating. Oops. And she was moved to another store since fraternizing was against policy. Apparently, she didn't like that store and quit. A few months later, I was happily working at defunct bookstore. And who gets a job at the defunct bookstore at another mall? Karen. Over the next few months, she proceeds to do little things to annoy me, like hanging up when I would call their store for a customer, or leave me on hold forever. Of course, I would get in trouble for not effectively handling the customer with their needs. The revenge. About 6 months into the job, I heard through the grapevine of store gossip that Karen had been injured in a car accident. Apparently, she had hurt her back and went on medical leave. She couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes at a time without excruciating pain. This is important. She was on indefinite leave, and her store could not hire anyone to replace her while on medical leave, leaving them short-handed, and I knew her manager was really annoyed after a few months. 2 months later, a few friends of mine and I decided to go play pool. A former coworker, Rick, from the overpriced CD store was there. Rick: "Man, too bad you weren't here last night. It would have been a reunion. Karen and her assistant manager were here playing pool." Me: "Karen was playing pool?" Rick: "Oh yeah, they come in every Wednesday night." Really? That's interesting. Every Wednesday, huh? How long has this been going on? A few months now. Yes, for the entire time she was on medical leave, Karen was out playing pool once a week, not at home in debilitating pain like she claimed. The next day, I went to her defunct bookstore and asked to speak to the manager. I told him all about her weekly pool sessions and encouraged him to be at the pool hall the next Wednesday night to catch her in action. That Thursday, she was fired. The last time I saw her, she and her friend were attempting to follow me home from work. I called the police and led them into the police station, where they told her to leave me alone or be arrested. She stayed away from me after that. And our final story of the day: I Can Find You Too. This is a story of my cousin. He used to work as a parking officer a few years ago. The following story happened to him, and his response seemed befitting to this subreddit. One day, my cousin was off shift and in his civilian clothing. He was simply shopping for groceries at the supermarket that evening. Once he left the supermarket, he went back to his car and loaded the trunk with his groceries. He proceeded to put the key in the ignition and start the car. Before he was able to exit his parking space, he got blocked by another car, meaning to stop him from leaving his parking spot. Then comes out a guy who was trying to confront my cousin, knocked on his window, and ordered him to step out of the vehicle while flashing a badge. Turns out, he is an undercover cop in civilian clothes driving in an unmarked vehicle. My cousin complied and stepped out. Jerk: "Seems that you have quite the beast of a ride there, my friend." Cousin: "It's only a family SUV, officer." "I'm not quite sure about that. I heard some unusual sounds from your engine as you pulled over. I suspected you might have installed some illegal performance modifications on your vehicle." "I assure you, I haven't. My car is in perfect stock condition." "Well, I had to make sure, so I waited for you until you got back and turned the ignition again. And I do believe there might be a few modifications to your car now that I heard it again." "I'm pretty confident that I did not install any modifications on my car. Feel free to check under the hood." My cousin pops the hood open. "Well, what do we have here? You modified your air intake system." "That's a stock intake. What makes you even think that this is a modified one?" And now my cousin is starting to get mad and questioning his competence at what he is claiming to know. "Look, dude, I'm not sure you even know what you're talking about here." "Oh, I know. I knew it since I heard your unusual engine. I know you're packing." "Why would anyone even modify a family SUV like it was a street race car?" "I don't know. You tell me. Anyway, I'm issuing you a ticket for this." "You are issuing me a ticket for something you clearly are not experienced in?" "Look, buddy, you're trying to plant fictional modifications in my car, and I have the hood wide open for you. So please drop the act or call in another officer who has more experience than you in these matters." "I don't think that's necessary. I'm pretty confident your air intake is modified, and I am experienced enough in these matters." The jerk officer now proceeds to head back to his car to grab out the ticket book. This is where the sweet revenge starts. Cousin is furious and decides to retaliate. Cousin heads back to his car as well to grab his own ticket book. When they were facing each other again, the jerk was surprised to see a ticket book in Cousin's hands. "What is happening here?" "I'm writing you a ticket too." "Wait, you're an officer too?" And what are you writing me for?
Yes, I'm a parking officer. I'm writing a ticket for illegal parking in a driveway and obstructing a parking space and the exit of other vehicles.
I'm not doing that. I'm right here by my car, and I'm available to move it out of the way. I'm only obstructing your exit to carry out my duty until I issue a violation.
You're not allowed to do that unless you are in a government vehicle.
This is a government vehicle.
It's not. It's a civilian car with a public license plate. Sorry, the government vehicle exemption doesn't apply to you in this case. The fine is coming out of your pockets, buddy.
I'm just going to appeal to court about this then. The government will just waive your ticket.
You can try that, buddy. If it works, you are welcome to come back to me and spit in my face. Here's what's gonna happen. You take your ticket to court. You plead not guilty on account that I can't find government vehicle. The rules for undercover cops is that if they are in unmarked vehicles, they are fully responsible for any accidents or violations as long as you have your sirens hidden and dispatch hasn't sent you, which is true in my country. The car is currently treated as a civilian car since those conditions don't apply. Therefore, you are responsible for this violation. As for my ticket, I'm going to appeal to court as well. The court will assign another experienced officer to inspect my car. Since I'm confident that I didn't modify my car in any way and you're full of crap, I'm getting this ticket waived. This will also possibly get reported and posted in your file at your police station for falsifying violations. My guess is that you're just trying to fill a ticket quota for a promotion or something. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is you messed with the wrong guy. The jerk officer's face was reddening with anger, and my cousin shoved his ticket in his hand and tried to grab the one out of his. Jerk was reluctant in handing out the ticket, seeing that the outcome was going to backfire at him. So my cousin yanked it out of his hand and went inside his vehicle. Cousin rolls down window. If you will excuse me now, I need you to move your vehicle. I have a wife and a baby son waiting to be fed. Jerk was mumbling as he walks to his vehicle, while my cousin left smiling. Entitled parent tries to get me to give her my aisle seat, ends up humiliating herself. So a little backstory. I'm from Canada, and I'm flying out to Edmonton to see family. This is my first solo flight. I'm 16, but it's only a 4-hour flight, so I'm not too concerned. I get to the airport and get checked in without a problem, but it's when I get on the plane that the fun begins. I get to my row and, behold, there's no one in the window seat or the middle. Info: this is a plane with 3 seats per side, so I was preparing to get up regularly to let the others in my row get to my seat. 30 minutes go by, and boarding time is almost over. One of the seats has been taken up by a large man. He seems nice and is keeping to himself in the middle seat without trouble. That is when Entitled Parent shows up. I'm watching a show on my phone, so I don't see this lady walk down the aisle holding her surprisingly large baby. Her kid must have been 1, but he was about the size of a 3-year-old. Then there was the woman. She was humongous. Her stomach was so large, it almost touched both the seats on her left and right. She stops in front of our aisle and stands expectantly with her baby. I admit, I should have noticed her at this point, and if it was just this, I would have felt more bad on my part than hers. Out of nowhere, this woman grabs the bridge of my over-ear headphones and rips them off of my head. I have decently large ears, so it kind of hurt. I looked around, trying to figure out what happened, when this giant woman leans over awkwardly and yells into my ear. "You should be paying attention. Get up so I can get to my seat." The man on my left looks over to see what's going on, and I can't imagine what was going on in his head. Possibly, the heck? As for me, I suddenly stand up and snap my headphones out of her hands. "You could have tapped my shoulder," I say dryly, moving out of my seat to allow her to go in. I wasn't exactly irritated yet, but I was definitely amused at the audacity of this woman. She looks at me with the most condescending look you could imagine and says,
Children shouldn't be allowed on planes. You know, especially stupid ones like you. If I was your mother, I would give you a spanking right now." I looked at her, amused, and asked her, "Don't you have your kid with you?" She blushes and says, "My kid is different. He will never turn out to be as idiotic as you." At this point, I'm not interested in arguing and merely gesture for her to sit down. The man had gotten up already, so there was no issues. So I thought. Then, to my utter surprise, she huffs and sits down in my seat. Me and the other man looked at her in complete confusion. Firstly, it's my seat. And secondly, how are we supposed to get in now? I speak up and say, "Hey, that's not your seat. Can you please move over?" Then she starts to really annoy me and decides to completely ignore me and pull out a snack from her pocket while precariously holding her child with one arm. At this point, I know what I'm dealing with, a severe case of the entitled parents. Tired of BS, I push the button for the flight attendant above her head and wait. The man tries talking to her too, but she ignores him as well. Eventually, a flight attendant comes through. This probably wasn't from my button press, but just a pre-flight check. When she sees the clog around the center of the plane, she comes up to the man and asks him what the problem is. Before he can answer though, entitled parent speaks up, finally, and raises her voice in a slightly arrogant, slightly pitiful sounding voice. "This child disrespected me openly, and I'm teaching him a lesson. Me and my child should have had this seat anyway." To my luck, this flight attendant was obviously very experienced and good at dealing with entitled parents. Immediately, she turned to me and asked to see my ticket. I showed her, and then she turned back and said to the entitled parent, "You're going to need to move, ma'am. This isn't your seat." The entitled parent turns bright red and looks at me as if I was the cause of her discomfort. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little scared. This woman was very large, and she could have easily sat on me. Despite this, I simply stand and wait to get my seat back. She argues with the flight attendant for a while with a fake whisper that was supposed to make me feel excluded and small. To be honest, I'm not surprised this very interesting woman would use 5th grade bullying tactics, but I'll leave that at that. Eventually, she says that she doesn't deserve to have to sit near someone as disrespectful as me, puts her baby on her lap, and crosses her arms with the most pudgy, stubborn expression on her face I have ever seen. The flight attendant looks at her like she is the most pathetic person she's ever seen and says, "Tell me again, clearly, that you would like to be moved, please." The entitled parent happily does, and the attendant nods and gestures for her to follow. When she gets up though, she looks annoyed that the flight attendant is heading further back in the plane. "Excuse me, I would like to sit up farther, please," she says, obviously trying very hard to be a kiss-up now. The flight attendant looks back and says, "The one open seat of this plane is at the very back next to the washroom. Follow me, please." The woman looks absolutely enraged and runs to catch up to the flight attendant to scream at her. I can hear her arguing right up until the moment I put my headphones on. Thankfully, I didn't see her again. What a headache. Next we've got Karen lets her daughter ride on my service dog. Here's the list of people involved. We've got me, we've got Karen, we all know who this is. We've got entitled dad and lifeguard. And angel lady, sent from heaven and the most amazing woman ever. I thought I might as well share this since Reddit is becoming a popular thing now, I guess. To put some background, I was diagnosed with dissociation disorder from a young age and tend to black out and just wander into roads, etc. So I was prescribed a service dog to keep me safe and keep me calm when I zone back in. Leela is a 4'3", fluffy as heck Japanese Akita. I chose her because the feeling of her fur is very soothing to me, and I find it easier to keep calm by stroking her. So let's set the scene. It's a really hot Monday, and I'm out at the beach with my dog. We're walking around the beach when I black out, but when I zoned back in, I was still on the beach and my service dog wasn't on her lead and nowhere to be seen. So I go into full panic mode. I collapse to the floor with a crowd of people now staring at me, and I'm about to pass out when I feel the familiar touch of Leela's head pressing against my chest. I'm still shaking when I turn around to see Karen pulling her goblin off my poor baby girl. Me screaming at Karen, "Did you seriously just have your brat on my dog?" Karen, "Well, you weren't responding, and she's big enough to ride, so we put Entitled Kid on her so she had a better view of the sea." At this point, someone had called the lifeguard over. Lifeguard, "Is everything okay here?" Karen, "This girl just screamed at my child and tried to get her dog to attack her. Look!" She actually tried to slyly scratch her kid and pass it off as if my dog had done it. Entitled Kid started crying and screeching. Me, "That's baloney." Obviously not what I really said. "She stole my service dog while she was doing her job." Entitled Dad, "That mutt needs to be put down, and she needs to be arrested for faking an illness. There's nothing wrong with it." Yeah, he called me it. Angel Lady, seeing I was in the middle of a panic attack. "Look at her. This poor lass is shaking, and her dog clearly says do not separate from handler. I saw you lot," talking to Entitled Parents, "at the pier with your kid riding this dog like a horse." I'm hypersensitive to loud noises, and everyone was shouting, so all I could do at that point was curl up in a ball. Leela, sensing my distress, started to growl at people to try and get them away from me. Karen, "Look at it. It's vicious and needs a muzzle." I can't remember what happened after that because I had full on passed out on the bench, but Angel Lady later told me at the hospital that when I collapsed, Karen tried to splash water on my face to wake me up, but instead received an aggressive stance from my dog and a wrestling-style pin to the floor by lifeguard, and the police came and arrested her. Angel Lady stayed with me and made sure no one touched me or my dog until an ambulance came, and then drove herself and my dog to the hospital to make sure I was okay. The paramedics couldn't let my dog in the ambulance because she was covered head to toe in sand and filth from the beach. This was a few days ago, and I'm still angry about what happened. Thankfully, both me and Leela are fine, but I won't be going back to the beach anytime soon. This was a few days ago, and I'm still angry about what happened. Thankfully, both me and Leela are fine, but I won't be going back to the beach anytime soon. Next we've got, "How dare you not let my angels play with your rollator?" Hello, Mr. Reddit. Long time no post. This happened 2 days ago, and I'm still pretty upset about it, but I wanted to wait to post it until I could cool down enough to type it without throttling my laptop. As per usual, I will paraphrase what exactly was said to keep the post PG rated. Our cast. We've got me, Marshmallow Echidna. We've got Mom, my awesome mother who should qualify for sainthood for what she endures. We've got Lady Tremaine, the entitled mother. We've got Anastasia, Lady Tremaine's Devil Spawn 1, Drizella, Lady Tremaine's Devil Spawn 2, and Merlin, the kind store manager. Story. As I stated in my last r/Mr. Reddit post, my mom has bone-on-bone arthritis in both knees, and she has a hard time getting around, especially in stores. What I did not mention is that she also has bone marrow cancer, and the chemotherapy she's endured has all but completely drained her energy. About a year ago, my dad, siblings, and I all pooled money together to buy a rollator for Mom. Sort of like a walker, but it has a seat to sit in if she gets tired so she can rest. When we gave it to her, you'd have thought we had just bought her a fully paid off Alfa Romeo. Her eyes were so full of grateful, amazed tears. Also, as previously stated, I am the only one of my siblings who still lives at home. Older brother and sister are both married and living with their spouses and kids, and little brother lives with his fiance's family. Oftentimes, Mom and I will go on errands on Wednesdays since it's my one day off from work and Dad is at his work. This time around, we were at a certain store whose name rhymes with Tracy's looking for clothes. Mom has her rollator with her to help her walk around, and I'm helping her find the different areas where we need to be. It all started when we went to the shoe department. Lady Tremaine was there looking for shoes for Anastasia and Drizella, who both looked to be about 7 to 8. The girls immediately saw Mom's rollator and ran over to us. Anastasia: "Wow, that's a cool scooter, lady." Mom: "Oh, thank you, but it's not a scooter. It's a rollator. It helps me stay steady while I walk." Drizella: "Can we ride it?" Mom: "I'm sorry, but no. As I said, I really need it to walk." "But we want to ride it." I'm afraid the answer is still no. I'm honestly amazed how calm and patient my mother was during this whole ordeal. I guess raising 4 kids instills that into you. Anastasia and Drizella look disappointed, but walk off, and we thought that was the end of it. If you're familiar with Reddit, you know that that is sadly not the case. About 5 minutes later, Mom and I are on our way to the next department when we see Lady Tremaine storming over in our direction with Anastasia and Drizella in tow. Lady Tremaine: "Excuse me, but my daughters told me that you won't let them ride your scooter." Mom: "Rollator. And yes, that's true." "Why ever not? It won't hurt you to let them ride on it for a little bit." "Actually, it would, since I need it to get around." "Oh, bullcrap you do. You're just leaning on it because you're too fat and lazy to walk 10 feet by yourself." My mom is overweight, but hardly obese. "You're just being a selfish woman who doesn't want my little angels to have some fun. You should be ashamed of yourself." Mom looks like she's about ready to cry. At this point, any fluffs I had are out the door and 10 miles gone, so I interject. Me: "Listen, lady. My mother has horrible bone marrow cancer and bone-on-bone arthritis in both knees, and it's hard for her to walk 10 feet by herself since she's in such god-awful pain. She needs that rollator to get around the store, and I'll be darned if I'm going to let you or your goblins mess around with it and try to make her feel bad for needing it. Now do us all a favor and just leave us the heck alone." Lady Tremaine: "How dare you speak to me that way, you horrible girl? Who the heck do you think you are?" Me: "A girl whose parents taught her that no means no, and that no amount of crying to mommy will make that answer change." Lady Tremaine looks ready to strangle both of us. Fortunately, this is about the time Merlin comes in. Merlin: "Is everything all right here, ladies? I got complaints about a hullabaloo here. These women stole my daughter's scooter, and when I tried to get it back, this brat here verbally attacked me." Me: "Sir, that is 100% untrue. The girls tried to get my mom to let them ride her rollator, and when she said no, their mother tried to make her feel bad about it." Drizella: "That's not true." Anastasia: "Yeah, you stole our toy." Me: "My mom's rollator is not a toy, so shut up, brats." Anastasia and Drizella both shut up at this point. Unfortunately, their mother did not. "See? That girl is a menace. Have her arrested." Merlin gives Mom and me a wink. "Ma'am, I can't do that until we check the CCTV footage." "What?" "We need to check the footage to make sure what you just told me is true. If it is, then we can proceed with legal actions." "This is bullcrap. How dare you take those thieves' side? They should be arrested and banned from this store for what they did to me and my babies." "Ma'am, the way you're refusing to check the CCTV is starting to make your story sound implausible. If you'll come with us." Lady Tremaine then let out a harpy-like shriek and grabbed her daughter's hands, dragging them out of the store. "I am never shopping in this store again. I will not give my business to a store that lets criminals like these two go unpunished." Once she was gone, Merlin looked to us. "Are you two all right?" One of my employees told me a crazy woman was bullying a woman with a rollator.
Mom, we're fine now. Thank you, sir.
Merlin apologized to us and told the cashier to mark down all our purchases for the day half off. Mom gave me a little scolding about using language in public, but was grateful for me standing up for her. And I got a huge slice of chocolate cake for my dessert after lunch as her thank you. Entitled Parent vs. GTA San Andreas. Hi, Mr. Reddit and the Re-Army. First-time poster, recent subscriber, but have been a fan of your YouTube videos for a while. I am on mobile. English is my first language, but spelling is my weakness. On to the story. The cast. We've got me, shift manager at a video store. We've got the kid, video game fan. And we've got entitled mom, our Karen. This happened many years ago, as the title might suggest, long before I had heard of Entitled Parents. At the time, I was working at a Hollywood video. As a shift manager, I was often alone in the store in the mornings after opening. One day, not sure exactly when this was, years ago, a kid came in. I could see his mom waiting in the car. Now, as with most video rental stores, we sold movies and games as well as renting them. So the kid heads directly to the video games for sale. He picks out one and comes up to the register. Conversation paraphrased, as I can't remember the exact wording. Me. Hi, what can I help you with today? The kid places a copy of GTA San Andreas onto the counter. Now, this kid looks 12 or 13 tops. The kid. I'd like to buy this game. He already had his money out. Now, as I am sure most of y'all know, GTA San Andreas is rated M. So with a sad smile, I say, I'm sorry, but that game is rated M. Unless you're of age, I can't sell it to you. This was standard company policy for games and movies. The kid looks down and then looks up and says, okay. You could tell he was disappointed as he left. I place the game behind the counter to reshelf later when I hear the door chime as someone else comes in. Hi, welcome to Hollywood Video. How are you today? Karen. Excuse me, but why didn't you sell my son the game he wanted? I sigh and then proceed to explain. At that point in time, I had never played a GTA game, but I had heard from my coworkers about them in general, and this title in particular. Well, ma'am, the game is rated M for mature. Now back then, we didn't really have the almighty Re, but I swear she was an early adopter. Well, it is his money, and if he wants the game, he can have it. Ma'am, I can't sell it to him because of the content. It is not really a game meant for kids. Fine, I am buying it. Yes, ma'am. Now, as she was a regular customer, I rang up the same on her account and put a note in the comments only employees can see that the son had wanted the game. That I had explained to Karen it was not rated for kids, but she insisted on buying it. I complete the sale. She is huffing and tapping her foot. Thank you, ma'am, and have a good day. Good customer service is ingrained in me. Now for about a week, nothing more happened. That is, until a week later. Evidently, she hadn't paid attention when he was playing for the most part. I heard from a coworker that she had come back in demanding a refund on the game because it was unsuitable for kids. Apparently, she had walked in on her son beating up someone with a certain infamous purple melee weapon from that game. She was informed that her account had been noted by me, that I had warned her repeatedly that this was not a game for kids, and she disregarded that. As such, they could not offer a refund or exchange. I am sure she read again as she was closing her account. Kinda wish I had been there when that happened. And shoutouts to our Re-Generals of the day, the Red Diamond, the Epic's Chest, and Brittany. Become tomorrow's Re-Generals by leaving as many Re's as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.